Case.
All parties in the matter of Hollister versus Hollingsworth. Step forward.
Gina Hollister is suing her former landlord, Jerome Hollingsworth, for moving costs and harassment.
Miss Hollister, you rented a couple of rooms in Mr. Hollingsworth's house, and it is your claim that he made your life a living hell. You want to be compensated that for moving costs, harassment, and physical and mental abuse.
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. Hollingsworth says that you were a nightmare tenant, and he's countersuing for property damage, lost wages, and punitive damages.
Yes, ma'am.
Have you ever rented in your house before?
No, ma'am.
Have you rented in your house since?
No, ma'am.
That's a good idea, because you know why, Mr. Hollingsworth? You never know what you're going to get. Who lives in your house with you?
Just me, my girlfriend, and my 2 kids, my babies.
Well, you and your girlfriend would probably be better off getting a second job before you rent to a stranger.
Yes.
And it's not easy to move in with a family, Miss Hollister. When did you move in with Mr. Hollingsworth?
I moved in with him October 2nd.
And where had you been living?
I had been living with my sister-in-law.
For how long?
Probably about maybe a month.
And before that, where were you living?
Before that, I lived in an apartment on Barber Street.
And how long did you live there?
3 months.
And before that, where did you live?
Before that, I had lived up on 10th Street, and I did get evicted from there, ma'am. That was about a year ago.
Okay, so you were evicted, you lived someplace for 3 months, you lived someplace for a month, and then you came to Mr. Hollingsworth.
Yes.
And you came on October 2nd. When did you leave?
I just left here a couple weeks ago on the 27th because we went through an eviction.
He evicted you because you didn't do what? Pay rent.
No, I had the rent, ma'am.
No, did you? Did not had it. I asked you whether you paid it.
No, he wouldn't accept it.
Listen to me, Miss Hollister.
Yes, honey.
I want you to understand something. He wanted to rent to a tenant to make extra money. That's why he was renting. Otherwise, he wouldn't have taken in a tenant. Because you're not crazy, are you?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so there's only one reason why he wouldn't take your money.
Her friend, Jerome Hollingsworth, made inappropriate advances toward her. Jerome is countersuing for property damage and lost wages.
Now, he wouldn't take your money. It wasn't because he was saying to you, we want you to live with us because everything is wonderful and you're going to be like Nanny McPhee. You're going to be part of the family, right? What he was saying is, I don't want your money. I don't want you. It's not worth the aggravation. Get out. But you hadn't paid him, which is why he moved to evict you. Now, did she offer you money after you moved to evict her?
No, she went shopping.
What do you mean she went shopping?
She came home with some brand new boots, brand new shopping bag, took everybody out to dinner.
Everybody in your family?
No, her friends.
Okay, and is that when you moved to evict her?
She agreed to move out the following month, and after she could not get another apartment because they denied her, she told me, you have to evict me.
And you did?
Yes.
Great. All right. So what do you think, Miss Hollister, that the defendant owes you for?
There's so much.
No, not so much. I don't want to hear so much. I'm a very busy person.
I understand that.
I'm a very busy person, and this case is going nowhere fast.
Right.
So I want you to tell me what you think this man owes you for.
Because he's put me and my daughter's lives through hell for the last 2 months. Since he got all my money, he propositioned me a couple days after that. I told him I don't get down. I just gave you all my money. Since then, the cops were called, ma'am, 18 times in 1 month.
So you must be happy that you're not there.
I am so very happy.
Great. Then what do you want? You want $2,500 for what? You didn't give him $2,500.
Because I had to get a storage. I have to find another place to live, which is no problem. I know that, and I'm trying.
Well, you've had a problem with places to live. You've had problems with places to live. You've been evicted now twice that I know of in 1 year. How old are you?
I'm 44.
44. I'm 73. I've never been evicted.
Right.
How old are you, Bird? Come on, speak up.
57.
57. 58. Yeah, you're 58. 58. How many times have you been evicted from a residence?
Never.
Never. And they in 1 year,
Right on.
Miss Hollister.
Right.
And I have a feeling it's not the only 2 times you've been evicted.
Yes, ma'am, it has. It is.
Yeah, well, then you had a bad year.
Tell me about it.
Okay, so you don't get any money from this court for harassment. What do you think you want?
I'm suing her for damages because...
What damages?
CPS came out to the house and kicked in the room door because she refused to talk to CPS that came for her and her daughter. And this is not...
Child Protective Services came on a report.
Correct.
Who filed the report? Do you know?
No, I don't.
Wasn't you?
No, ma'am. No. I didn't call.
Somebody else called on your behalf?
No, ma'am.
All right, I have a feeling. I'm not even going to go into that.
No, the police did.
Next.
The second is I'm suing for mental distress. The people, she was bringing multiple people in my house, leaving the front door unlocked. And I had to call the police. I mean, people coming in with hoodies on, 2 or 3 in the morning. And I'm talking, every time I talk to her.
Are you glad she's gone?
I'm glad.
Say, thank goodness she's gone. From
Thank
this court,
God she's gone.
From her, you're not getting any money.
I'm just happy that she's gone.
Perfect. And you know what? Mr. Hollingsworth, I'm happy that you're happy.
Yes.
Great. Do you have some place to live now, Miss Hollister?
Yes, I'm currently staying with my sister-in-law again until the place.
And you don't have a new tenant?
No, never.
And you're not going to get a new tenant?
Oh, no, never.
Everybody learned their lesson. Good.
That's right.
Goodbye, good luck, have a happy life.
These are excused. You may step out.
Bye, Judge Judy. It was nice meeting you.
Leave your paperwork. Leave your paperwork. Ma'am, leave your paperwork.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
They got this lady out of my house.
I was staying with him, and he did me and my daughter very wrong.
She's out of my life. She's been a nightmare.
Using vulgar language in front of my little girl.
I have called the police at least 18 times on her.
He would get very upset and start screaming in my face.
You'll say what you have to stay in somebody's house. I feel if you've been harassed this way.
Went through hell with my daughter.
Seated. Folks, have a seat.
All right, Mr. Mazurenko, it is your claim that the defendant destroyed your fence with his car.
Yes.
What kind of car do you have, Mr. Felix?
Well, at the time, I had the 95 Toyota Tercel.
How long had you had it?
I've had that car, I say, about 4 years.
What kind of work do you do?
I do warehouse work, shipping and receiving.
And where do you live?
I live in Gresham, Oregon.
Address?
Northeast Palmblatt.
How long have you lived there?
I recently moved in there, so it's probably about 8 months.
Who do you live with?
I live with 2 roommates.
Any of them work with you?
No, they don't work with me.
Male roommates?
1 male, 1 female.
You have a relationship with the female roommate?
No.
No.
They have a family of their own, and I just rent a room.
You rent a room from them?
Yeah.
So you were living there at the time of this accident?
Yes.
And where does your mother live?
She lives in Liberty Avenue.
And how long has she lived there?
She lives there for like at least 15, 20 years.
Is she a working lady or retired?
She's working.
What kind of work does she do?
Housekeeping.
Who lives with her?
Her husband.
Is that your father?
No.
This incident occurred in October of 2015. Is that correct?
Correct.
Who witnessed the accident?
My daughter Angela Mazurenko and Alexander Byrne.
Could you stand up, please? Oh, not you. Just her. Tell me your last name.
Mazurenko.
Miss Mazurenko, do you remember the date of this incident on October 15th?
No.
You don't remember it?
The date, no.
But do you remember the incident?
Yes.
Okay. Tell me what you observed.
I was with my friend. We had a sleepover, and I heard screeching of wheels, and then I heard a crash, and I heard my dad run out, and so I ran out with him, and we saw the car in the fence, and our shed was destroyed, and...
What, did you see what kind of car it was?
No.
Did you see who was driving the car?
No.
Okay. Did you see anything else?
No.
Let's see. Did you witness it?
I just seen the shed before and after.
And what about you? Did you witness it?
Well, I heard the loud noise, crash noise, so I came outside and I saw 2 people standing by the car.
So you saw 2 people?
2 people was there, yeah.
The defendant?
Yes.
And one other?
And he says that was his brother.
He said it was his brother?
Yeah.
Did they look alike?
They did. I mean, it was dark outside, so I couldn't really see faces and everything, but they were...
Did they appear intoxicated?
I've smelled some alcohol on them.
On both of them. Who was driving the car?
I have no idea because they were digging the car out.
But it was this Toyota, this 1990 Toyota.
Yeah, it was a Toyota Tercel, 1995.
Okay, so what did you do next, sir? Uncross your arms.
Well, we kept talking to each other, and 3 minutes later, police showed up, so he gave me his driver license, and he took off. Then I gave all the information to a police officer, and...
Can I see the police report?
Yes.
Okay, I read your answer, sir. And my notes on this case after I read your answer was that you acknowledged that your car went through his fence, destroying his fence and the shed, But your defense is that it wasn't you driving. It was your brother who looks like you, smells like you, tastes like you, sounds like you, but it wasn't you. That's your defense.
Yes.
I don't care. It doesn't make any difference. It was your car.
Well,
so I don't care who was driving it. If you say it's your brother, go sue your brother.
Well, I'm not the one getting sued. He should sue my brother.
No.
Because...
He's suing the owner of the car, who he says, listen to me, who he says was also the driver. Now, you say I wasn't the driver. It was my brother.
It was.
Doesn't make any difference to him. You want to sue your brother and say, listen, I just got sued by the guy whose fence you destroyed when you were drunk. Not that I believe that it was your brother, because I don't. But let's say there's a little bit of a minuscule particle up there of truth in what you say. A little teeny, weeny, little tiny particle. It doesn't make any difference. It's your car. And if you left the keys in your car, and if you left the license in your car that your brother took without your permission from your mother's house, with whom he doesn't live, because this is your story. Wait till you hear the story. He decided not to take his car because he was going out with his girlfriend. Mm-hmm. So instead of leaving his car where he lives,
well, to be honest,
quiet, with a couple of roommates, he brought his car over to his mother's house, and he left in his mother's house with the car, his keys, and his license, his driver's license.
My license was expired, so that wasn't...
Just to say, hey, shut up. He says he left his driver's license in the car. Mm. And you're the girlfriend? And she's the girlfriend. Who, and he's going to lie, and she's going to swear to it, so I don't even have to pay any attention to her. Now, the bottom line is it really doesn't make any difference. Right. Because if you're the owner of the car and you leave the car in a situation, pay careful attention, listening ears, you stack in a warehouse, I'm a lawyer.
Well,
that's what I do. That's what I do.
I'm telling you.
I'm a lawyer.
There's a reason
so you have to pay attention to what I'm saying to you.
There's a reason that I left the car there.
I don't care. I don't care if you were having your arms amputated, and that's why you left your car at your mother's house. It doesn't matter.
It's not insured, so I didn't take the car. I leave the car at my mom's house because it's not insured.
It doesn't matter. It's your car. You're responsible.
For somebody stealing my vehicle?
Your car. You left it in a circumstance where it could be taken in an unauthorized way. It's your car, and if you leave it out on the street, it's supposed to have insurance.
It wasn't on the street.
By the way,
it was
I'm
on
looking
their driveway.
here. Don't try to out-talk me. I'm a lawyer. What do you do for a living?
I'm just being honest.
Yeah, good. No, you're not being honest with me at all. You're not being honest with me at all.
I don't know what to tell you.
Let me tell you what, he left the car there because he's now telling me he left the car there because it didn't have insurance and he had an expired driver's license. If I'm reading through...
Yeah, I got my new license.
Just a second. Let me read you the first few things that he wrote here in his sworn affidavit. All right? Okay. Let me read first. That's your squiggle signature over here,
That's
right?
Me. That's me.
I woke up on October 10th and got a call that my car had been in an accident. I had been driving my girlfriend's car and had left it at my mother's house with the keys in it in case she needed to move it.
Well,
Where does it say, wait, just a second, where does it say in here, I don't drive my car, it had no insurance, I had no license, the car wasn't being driven, it was unplugged. Where does it say that in here?
I must have left it out.
I must have left it out. Great. Can I have an estimate of the damage, please? Idiot.
I'm telling you, I wasn't the driver, so I shouldn't be responsible. He's suing the wrong guy. That's what I'm saying.
No, you go sue your brother. Go find your brother. He doesn't have to go find your brother.
Yeah.
What?
My brother's in jail. Yes.
Wait until he gets out.
It is. The total is right there. This is the whole estimate from the insurance company.
Sue your mother. She probably gave him permission to take it.
The keys wasn't in...
No, just a second. Sue your mother for giving him permission to take it.
She never gave him permission, so I'm trying
I
to
don't
tell
know
you.
that. All I know is you left her with the keys. So he either stole the keys from your mother or she gave him permission. So sue your brother and your mother.
Says Jaime Felix damaged his fence when he ran into it with his car. Jaime claims it was his brother who was behind the wheel.
Okay, stand up. I have two questions for you. Where did you go on the evening of October 15th? Where did you go? Fast.
came home from work and I picked up our daughter and I brought her over to his...
Picked up your daughter from where?
From my house. My family babysits for me while I'm at work.
And then where did you go?
And then I went over to Jamie's house. I usually take our daughter over to his house on the weekends.
How far does he live from work? Look at me. How far does he live from his work in the warehouse?
It's about a 20-minute drive.
Who drives him to work?
He drives.
Without a license?
He has a license. The license that was in his car was expired. It was an old license. He has a new one. And he's been borrowing one of my family's extra cars to get to work because it has insurance.
Don't believe you. Oh, just a second. Which car has he been borrowing and for how long?
It's been about 6 months that he's been borrowing it. It's my mom's old minivan.
And he takes that car to his house every day?
Yes.
Takes that car, and is he insured on that car?
It's insured through my parents.
Is he insured on that car?
No.
Now you can sit. Can I see pictures of the fence, please?
You want all pictures or just the fence? I mean,
There's pictures of the fence.
And he went through the fence into the shed?
Correct.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all. We're done.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It's not my fault.
It's awesome.
I'm not my brother's keeper.
I just wanted to get paid for the damages.
And now, the next case.
All parties in the matter of Stower versus Green. Step forward.
Amanda Stower is suing her former roommate, Kelly Green, for unpaid rent, utility bills, and property damage.
All right, Ms. Stower, you and the defendant were roommates for a while. You signed a lease on an apartment, and 6 months into the one-year lease, Ms. Green moved out. That one-year lease is over now, and you want her to be responsible for her share of the 6 months' rent that she didn't pay. That's what your case is about.
It was actually, she skipped out on 8 months of the
Well, you say
lease.
she skipped out. So you waited 8 months, and you lived in the apartment, I assume alone.
Yes, ma'am.
For 8 months, and now that the lease is over, you're suing her.
It's not over yet.
When will it be over?
The last day of the lease will be the 21st of July.
Okay, almost over.
Yes, ma'am.
And the rent on this apartment was how much?
I believe $1,380.
And how large is the apartment?
It's a 3-bedroom apartment, ma'am.
And you signed the lease when?
December 11th of 2014 is the actual date.
So that
And
you
then-
also signed a renewal?
We signed a lease extension, yes,
A
ma'am.
lease extension.
Yes,
When
ma'am.
did you sign the lease extension?
July 30th of 2015.
So everything was fine for the year.
Yes, ma'am.
And things at some point were not fine.
Yes, ma'am.
When did they become not fine, Miss Green?
Right after I re-signed the lease. Everything just went downhill. She was just dating random people.
Just listen.
Sorry.
You weren't getting along.
No, not at all.
Did you talk to Miss Stower about it?
No.
Didn't discuss it with her?
I discussed things that were ruined of mine, but I was to the point that I would just stay in my room and go to work, come home, stay in my room.
Okay.
Says her former roommate, Kelly Green, owes for rent, bills, and property damage. Kelly is countersuing for broken glasses and harassment.
Now, did you discuss moving out?
I told her 30 days before I was going to move out. I gave her a 30-day notice.
Well, she's not the landlord.
Right.
You both signed the lease.
Correct.
So you told her 30 days in advance. And what did she say to you about you moving out?
She said, okay. I have a text, and I told her I have a text message
I'd
printed
like
out.
to see it.
I have.
Yep, right there.
Now, if this is a 3-bedroom house, who lived there?
Her daughter and me and her.
So what was your share of the rent?
$500 plus utilities. Half of the utilities.
And her daughter had the room?
Yes.
And you had a room?
Yes.
And she had a room?
Yes.
And you paid $500, which is certainly more than a third of the rent, plus half the utilities? How old is your daughter?
She's 11, ma'am.
And you opted to stay in the house and not rent the third room after she moved out?
After the experience of...
No.
No, ma'am. I did not.
And when the lease is up, have you asked for an extension of the lease?
No, ma'am.
Where are you going?
I'm going to put all my stuff in storage, and I'm moving in with a friend of mine.
With whom?
One of my girlfriends from the Navy. She's a real close friend of mine.
Okay. It's clear from these texts back and forth that you were not unhappy that she was leaving, and that the $75 fee that she was going to pay the office to get off the lease, if there in fact was still a lease, you didn't have a problem with at all.
I have.
I'd like to see what you have.
I have I said we extended our lease until July, and she said, yes, I told you I was going to sign that, but I wasn't sure if I was going to stay.
That's exactly what I have. I have those texts. And it appears from a reading of these texts that there was a meeting of the minds with regard to her signing off the lease. What I don't understand, actually, is why you and your daughter lived there comfortably for the last 8 months when clearly you weren't getting along with her, and you waited until the end of that time to sue her. Do you have all the ads that you placed with realtors to rent the other room?
I never put another ad up because after the experience that I had with her having marijuana in the apartment, and I have text messages.
Just a second. So that you decided not to have another roommate?
Yes, ma'am, after.
She doesn't owe you any money. Do I have a counterclaim here?
Yes.
I read your counterclaim. She says you agreed as you were not getting along and has a stupid counterclaim. I still think it's a stupid counterclaim, so you have 30 seconds to tell me about it. You have 30 seconds to tell me about it.
I just want my glasses fixed. They're really expensive, and I asked her for it. I don't have the text message of what I asked her. I asked her to replace it, and she blamed me because I left my door open. But the reason that I left my room door open is because my room was really hot in the winter.
You know, I don't care.
And her dog just went in my room. She didn't kennel her dog
I actually don't care. Okay, first of all, from reading these texts, it is my view that you acquiesced in her moving out of the house for no other reason than you have having a miserable experience and you didn't want your daughter involved in that miserable experience. So you were just as happy for her to leave. You also have a responsibility under these circumstances to try to lessen your damages. You said, I didn't place an ad for the other room. It's a 3-bedroom house because I didn't want another roommate. Well, so first you sort of acquiesced to her leaving and then wait until the end of the lease and sue her for the rent. Maybe if you told her you were going to sue her for the rent, she wouldn't have moved and she would have stayed and then you would have had to move.
I did tell her that I was going to sue her for the rent, and she told me that she was going to sue me.
Show me where you told her and when you told her you were going to sue her for the rent.
On November 19th, as she was moving out.
Show me.
It was a verbal.
Okay. Your case is dismissed. So's your counterclaim. We're done.
Excuse me, step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
I'm glad. I don't have to pay her anything. She doesn't deserve it.
I didn't kick her out. She left on her own free will.
She's cheated the government, and
she had marijuana in the apartment around my daughter.
But she dated cops, and she never called the cops on me for having marijuana, so.
I just told her that I would not tolerate marijuana in my house around my child.
I'm over it. I don't even care about my glasses. Yes.
She threatened to call CPS on me for neglect for my daughter.
Definitely don't want to live with someone that...
Which she's not neglected in any...
Neighbors of Mr. and Mrs. Casimiro?
Yes, ma'am.
Your properties are right next to each other. Is that right?
Correct. My backyard adjoins their backyard.
And how long have you lived there?
Roughly about 26 years.
And how long have you lived in your home?
26 years.
You've both been there for the same amount of time?
Yes.
Okay. Now, there's a tree that has clearly been a point of contention, probably not just this last time in February, but probably for a while. Did you plant the tree near the property line near their house, or was it there when you bought the house?
No, Your Honor. I planted it, I would say, 23 feet roughly from the wall that adjoins their side. 23
feet?
Yes.
Show me somewhere in the room where 23 feet is.
I'll say about from here to that pillar.
Okay. That's at least 20 feet. So when you originally planted it, you planted it 20 feet into your yard.
Correct.
And then it started to grow.
Yes, ma'am.
And it grew very big. And it grew so that some of the branches hung over onto the defendant's property. And according to the defendants, the leaves from the tree, is it an evergreen or a deciduous tree? Does it lose its leaves or does it keep its leaves?
It loses its leaves.
And the leaves were going into their swimming pool. You have a swimming pool?
Yes.
And making a mess and or clogging the drain. Now, have Mr. and Mrs. Casimiro ever talked to you about it?
No, they have not, Your Honor.
Did they ever request an opportunity to talk to you about it?
No, Your Honor, they did not.
Have they ever trimmed the tree before?
Not to my knowledge.
Yes, so that could be.
Yes,
Your Honor, they did mention that at one point in this situation that they had called my wife and got prior consent.
Okay, just a second. I don't care about consent. They don't need your consent or your wife's consent to cut down a tree that is hanging over their property. I just want to know if they were being neighborly first and made a phone call. And the answer would be yes. They called your wife.
No, they did not.
Did you, at any time, when you started to have trouble with this tree, call Mr. Moorhead's home?
Senior, my mom, because we work, my mom is the one who keep in touch, the wife.
Well, I don't know that.
Yes.
I don't know that at all.
Yes.
Because your mother isn't here.
Yes, Your Honor. But we don't need to ask his permission.
I didn't ask you that, whether you needed to ask his permission. I've already said you don't need his permission,
Yes.
but you've been neighbors for a quarter of a century. That would be a nice thing to do before you prune the tree. Okay, so this thing happened on February 23rd of this year.
Yes.
Correct.
According to you, the gardener, that would be Mr. Sanchez,
Correct.
at the direction of Mr. and Mrs. Casimiro, trimmed the tree. And the issue is, did they trim the tree appropriately or not? You're going to show me pictures. I'm going to make that judgment. And then we're going to get to the next cause of action that you have against Mr. Sanchez, because when you claim that you complained about it, Mr. Sanchez assaulted you.
Correct.
No.
Just, shh, I don't want you to say anything. Mr. Sanchez is going to tell me, right?
Right.
Okay, so now I'd like to see all the pictures of the tree, both before and after.
Before and after.
Where do you live?
Palmdale.
Is most of this tree dead?
No, not at all.
No, no, no.
The branches on the ground is what they cut.
I'm looking at the tree as it's standing. I'm looking at the tree, what's left of it. It looks dead.
Well, it looks dead because they butchered it.
No, 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 no. It looks dead because it's dead. Everything else around it is green, except this, what's standing here.
Yeah, I think you'd find that that's the lighting.
It's what?
The lighting. It's not dead.
Bird, does this look like lighting to you? This is green,
Right.
and this is not. This has a leaf, and this has no leaf. Okay. All right.
You know,
Your Honor,
the
the
leaves
tree is
fall
not
off
dead.
the tree in the winter.
On what date were these pictures taken?
Probably about 2:25.
So 2 days later.
Yeah.
There are no leaves on this tree.
It was winter time. I mean, you know, the tree hadn't bloomed yet.
Yeah, but the other tree, they live in Palmdale. All of the other trees are green.
There's a Chinese elm.
Do you see what I'm
Everything
talking about?
falls off of
Yeah,
it.
okay, fine.
If there was-
just listen to me. I see that they cut down branches from the tree. I don't see pictures of the tree where it was.
Your Honor, I have a picture.
May I please see it?
This is on the day, and this is after.
After a month, that one.
I see what you cut. I would like to see before you cut it, before it was cut. Who took a picture of it before it was cut?
Us.
Well, show me.
No, no, no. What I'm saying, Senor, is the one that is, Your Honor, is that's already cut that day after.
I'm just asking you if anybody has a picture to show me before it was cut.
No, Your
The
Honor.
answer is no. Okay. Now, are these two pictures representative of the tree after they were cut?
Correct.
Is that correct?
I can't tell from here.
Correct, Senor. Correct.
Show me.
It might be. I'm not.
Well, you say it
perhaps.
might be, they say it is. Okay,
That's
fine.
the day.
And may I ask whether these hedges here are on your property or your property?
Our property.
Their property. So this is your property, and these were the offending branches
Yes,
that you
those
cut.
Correct.
Okay, so you come home in February, Mr. Moorhead. At about what time did you get home?
I was already at home. I was watching TV. I heard a lot of noise, some sort of motor going. I look out the window and I see a guy on top of the shed. The picture of the shed is there. And the big pile of branches from my tree, because, you know, gravity, physics, if you cut something and it's on their side of the wall, it falls on their side of the wall. If you cut it on my side, which you can see the picture shows 5 to 6 feet, it's going to fall on my property. It falls directly down. It's roughly 200 pounds of tree, I'd say.
What do you do for a living?
Prop master.
Not a gardener
No.
or a physicist.
No.
Keep going.
Okay. So when I see all these branches and everything, I know it's coming from there because he's standing on the roof of the shed with some sort of pole.
On whose shed?
On their shed.
On their shed.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So I come around I had to drive around the block because
Just a
they
minute.
live in the
Just
cul-de-sac.
let's go slowly. Sure. So now you see what he's doing, and you got into your car
Yes.
and drove around the block.
Correct.
And?
So I go up there, and there's nobody else around, and the gardener is walking around the front of the house with a blower and a rake.
This man?
No, that's wrong. That's right.
Don't speak. Don't speak. Go ahead.
Sorry.
This man is walking around with a blower and a rake.
Yeah, and he's blowing it. I'm trying to get his attention, and I'm yelling.
Just a second. I want you to tell me, he's walking around with one of those blowers that you carry on your back?
Right.
With one of these things?
Right.
So he's walking around with a blower and a rake.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to describe the rake that he was walking around with.
A metal rake.
A metal rake. Keep going.
Okay. So I go to tap him on the shoulder to try to get his attention so that I could talk to him. And as I reached up to tap him on the shoulder, he spun around and he hit me with the rake. I don't know if
You think that I believe that?
I don't.
Do
That's
you know
the truth.
Just a second. Maybe he'll tell me.
That's a lie.
Maybe he'll tell me that's true. Quiet. Mr. Moorhead, I have gardeners, all of whom I have seen at various times in my life with the blowers, you know, blowing the leaves once they've done the gardening. Never, not one time in 73 years have I ever seen somebody with a blower and a rake.
And the rake. Right.
I'm just telling you. Now, it's possible that Mr. Sanchez, that this was the way he does business. I'm just telling you from my life's human experience, I've never seen somebody walking around, blowing the leaves, and at the same time trying to rake them.
Do you think it could be possible that he was moving the rake?
No, you said he was blowing the leaves.
He was blowing leaves,
You said he
and
was
he had a
blowing
rake.
the leaves. He was blowing the leaves and holding a rake. Those things are not easy to control with the things on the back.
Well,
okay. So you were. Let me understand you, Mr. Moorhead. You were going to just tap him on the shoulder to get his attention.
That's correct.
And he sprung around.
And
when
he
you
caused-
got around, and when you got out of your house to drive around in your car, was there a fury that somebody had cut down your tree?
No, it was a curiosity. I wanted to know what was going on. Why are they cutting my tree?
Were the police called?
Yes, after
Did you tell them you were assaulted?
Absolutely. You have the picture.
Just a second. Did you tell them you were assaulted?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. And
Here's
did they,
the report.
Just a second. Did they arrest anybody?
No. They said because they
Don't
did
tell
not.
me what they said. If you have a police report, I'll read it.
Well, I have what they gave me. They said they were going to send me a report. They never did.
I'm not interested in what they gave you. All I'm
Okay.
interested in is a police report.
Okay.
Okay.
They
Now,
said that
so he turned around and he hit you with the rake. So that's the second thing that you're suing for, the tree and the rake.
Okay.
That's the second thing that you're suing for.
That's correct.
Right. What I want to next see is your injury. I don't want to see a picture. I want to see
Well,
a
it's
medical.
healed now.
I want to see a medical report.
Oh, I didn't do any medical research.
So you didn't go to see a doctor?
No, I'm just telling you the truth.
Just
What
a second.
happened?
You just
have a picture.
no, just a second. You told the police that a man assaulted you, and the police observed what they perceived to be, according to you, evidence of an assault, but they did not conclude that there was sufficient evidence to arrest the perpetrator of the assault, and you clearly did not think that it was a serious enough assault to seek any kind of medical treatment.
That's exactly correct.
Good, fine.
There's Mark and Ninfa Casimiro and their gardener, Hildy Sanchez, owe for damage to his elm tree and an assault.
Now, Mr. Sanchez.
Yes.
How long have you been a gardener for the defendants?
20 years.
Okay. Now, tell me about the tree limbs that you cut.
That tree is very high. The branches coming in the properties, my owners. And every year I trim in like this kind of 2 feet. Every year.
For how many years have you been trimming it?
Like 5 years, 10
Okay.
years.
So every year you trim it because it hangs over?
Yes.
What happened this February?
Like February 23rd, like 8:30, because the owner, he told me he cut out this branch early. Okay, because he got swimming pool, and I got a lot of leaves, a lot of trash. I'm fine. You know? I told, okay, I believe it. And I cut it with my sticks off. You know, I stay on the roof. And I cut it, and the branches, when I cut it, I think it's coming down this side. You know, but it's a little bit heavy. It's good, and his property. And after
it fell sideways.
I cut the branches already. Okay, fine. And after I use my blower and I to clean it up, all the concrete, driveway, and the sidewalks. When this guy he come in very angry, very mad.
Well, tell me what he said. Don't tell me he was angry and mad.
Okay.
Tell me what he said to you.
He said, I want to put in jail. You killed my tree. Right? Like that. You know, I don't kill your tree, just I cut the branches. And he said, shut it out the blower. And he pushed me like 3 times.
How did he push you?
When I used the blower like this, and I don't know behind me, you know, and then he pushed me like this.
For curiosity, sir, did you have a rake in your hand?
No, I can't.
Go ahead.
And he pushed me a second time, and next to a third time, and I go knock the door. My owners, I tell, I need help. I got a guy crazy here. He's going to kill me. You know?
Lie.
I don't know where he come from.
That's
because I'm working.
Listen, did you see how quiet he was, Mr.
I'm sorry.
Moorhead?
Go ahead.
When you were telling me your version of the story,
I was overwhelmed by his lie.
You were overwhelmed. I can see that you could get overwhelmed.
It was a lie.
Shh. I know exactly what happened.
Well,
I got it visually in my mind.
Judge Judy Moorhead claims neighbors Mark and Ninfa Casimiro and their gardener, Hildy Sanchez, are responsible for damaging his elm tree.
So, what's next?
And
Were you at home?
Yes, ma'am.
So you went to the...
Yeah, I knocked the door and told her, I need help. And she coming out. So I touched the door hard, because this guy, he tried to kill me. I don't know what he wants, you know. And after she go out, and he run it to the car, to the parking lot, outside. He don't want to stay in his property.
Who called the police? You did not call the police.
No.
You called the police.
Yes. May I clarify something, Your Honor?
Sure.
I'm a black belt in karate. If I had tried to hurt this man, he wouldn't be here right now.
Mr. Moorhead,
I didn't
what
try to hurt
what
him.
you just said to me doesn't necessarily help your case. I just want to tell you that.
Okay,
doesn't
that's fine.
necessarily
I'm
help
gonna
your
tell you
case.
the truth either way.
Could we get to you called the police?
Yes.
Now, you called the police from your house.
No, I went to my car. I did not want to be hit by the rake again. It's not a big deal being hit by the rake.
It's a lie.
I went to my car and I called the police because he had the blower thing going. When they finally came out, they said...
Just a second. Don't tell me what the police said, sir.
Okay, what
That's
would you like to
hearsay.
know? Okay.
That's hearsay. The police came out. And when the police came out, where were you?
I was at my car that was in the street.
And so you waited by your car.
Correct.
And the police came out, and you told them what had happened.
Correct.
Okay. They spoke to him. I assume the police spoke to you?
Yeah, he's talking to me.
And did the police speak to you?
Yes, ma'am.
And then they left. And no one was given a citation for trespass?
No, they hadn't seen the tree cut, so they couldn't do anything
listen to
about
me.
it.
Yes, he did.
Nobody's going to listen to that, sir, and it's going to be cut
I'm going
out
to tell you the
because what
truth.
you're telling me is
I'm going to tell you the
they
truth
didn't
either
see,
way.
You know, you're not going to tell me the story either way.
No, not the story, the truth.
No. You've
Yeah.
already told me, and I've given you lots of time to tell me your version of the truth, Mr. Moorhead. First of all, they have a right. Everyone has a right to the peaceful enjoyment of their property. And if you made a mistake and planted your tree 25 years ago so that its branches interfere with the enjoyment of somebody else's property, the responsibility actually should be yours.
Question?
I'm speaking. I don't answer your questions. I'm now ruling. The responsibility should be yours to make sure that you don't do anything to interfere with a neighbor's enjoyment of their property, like the leaves that are falling off your tree because this tree has no leaves on it. And you say you took it 2 days afterwards. So clearly the leaves have to go someplace. And if the leaves are going into their swimming pool, that's a nuisance. So you have to deal with it. And if you didn't plan right and plant the tree further onto your property so it could grow and not interfere with your neighbors, then you have to deal with that. You didn't. This gardener tells me every year he trims it a little bit. You didn't know that. You didn't even know that.
No, because he hasn't done that. That's a falsehood, too.
Okay. All right. And then
5 or 6 feet on my side of the property. How do you justify that?
you justify it if it was hanging over onto their property and causing damage to their swimming pool. That's how you justify it.
Well, I mean,
and you should have taken care of it.
As far as they reach with a pole, they can cut?
You should have taken care of it. And actually, if there is a complaint of an assault and evidence of an assault, the police always make an arrest. Right. The fact that they did not make an arrest suggests to me that if I had to believe a version of the story of this man walking around a rake and hitting you with the rake when you tapped him on the shoulder after you had whizzed around to the cul-de-sac to find out what happened to your tree. I have to go with the version of I didn't have a rake in my hand. So your case is dismissed, Mr. Morgan. We're done.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
Well, I really trust my gardener, and I think it's the right decision.
Well, you know, it's a property rights situation, you know. When somebody takes a pole...
I believe that, you know, it's a ridiculous accusation.
...and cuts my tree as far as the pole will reach.
It's in our property over, and it's really...
And then leave me a pile of 200 pounds of tree to clean up.
We need to cut it because of the situation about the pool and all of that, so we need to clean it.
I mean, it's a property rights thing.
That first day, we always want to work out things with the neighbor.
Well, I'm not a vindictive person, but I am a truthful person.
Enough of it. And now, the next case.
All parties in the matter, Clark versus Gambin. Step forward.
Cindy Clark is suing her ex-boyfriend, Richard Gambin, for the cost of airline tickets to Italy.
Ms. Clark, it is your claim that the defendant who you were dating owes you for airline tickets that you purchased for the two of you.
Yes, ma'am.
According to you, the relationship didn't last as long as the trip. The airline tickets were non-refundable, according to you, so you just didn't go. Canceled the tickets. And you want Mr. Gambin to pay you for both tickets, yours and his.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, why don't you tell me the conversation that you had with Mr. Gambin with regard to the airline tickets? Because that's simple. That's what the case was about. You have some sort of a ridiculous counterclaim claiming she libeled you. Did she call you a thief?
Just short of that.
That's what she thinks, because you didn't pay her back for the airline tickets. That doesn't mean that she's allowed to say vicious and insidious things about you, but if she calls you a deadbeat, that's what she thinks about you. Do you understand?
Correct.
Great.
Countersuing for job endangerment and libel.
Okay, so tell me about the conversation. When did it take place? Where did it take place with regard to the airline tickets?
It took place 3 days after we started dating. He told me...
Just a second.
Yes.
Which was on what date?
Our first date was December 31st, 2014.
So it took place
3 days later.
First week in January.
Uh-huh.
Go ahead.
The first week in January. And he told me that he would like to take me to Italy with him this summer. He goes back there every year for 3 weeks of teaching. And he told me that he would like to take me there with him.
Good. And?
And I started researching airline tickets for the next few weeks and found some tickets that were very good priced and told him about it. And he said, that's a great price, baby. And so we decided to book our tickets. And on the day that we booked them, he said he didn't have the money right then. I said, I can put the tickets on my credit card. You can pay me back before the trip takes place. He agreed to this.
I don't believe you. A, I don't believe you because I'm looking at your face and I don't believe the story. That's number one. And number two, any woman that's your age meets a guy 3 days later, says, I'm going to invest $4,000 in airline tickets because he says to me, I meet him in December 31st, and this summer he says, I want to take you to Italy, baby. He has to be missing a few screws. Either that or it didn't exactly happen that way.
I didn't answer him right away with a yes or a no on going to Italy.
You said I started researching the tickets right away. On what date did you purchase the tickets?
March 16th.
Show me. Okay, so the two adult tickets were $4,000. Your ticket you can use. Well, that's what it says in the letter.
Yes, I can.
That's what it says in the letter. So your ticket you can use. You have to pay an exchange fee, but your ticket you can use. So why are you suing him for $4,000?
Because I will never use that ticket.
Who cares?
And go to Italy.
Who cares? It doesn't say you have to go to Italy. It says you could go anywhere.
Yes, I can. And I lose. If I take a trip to, say, Nebraska or Colorado, it costs me $300
I don't care.
to rebook the ticket.
I don't care.
Okay.
That's not particularly relevant to me. Mr. Gambin, she bought the tickets in March, which means that you were sort of dating January and February, so 2.5 months. Now she doesn't seem like such an idiot to go and book the tickets 3 days after you met, when you were wooing her and said, I want to take you to Italy. Me, when I was in Brooklyn, they said, let's go to Queens. I mean, that was a big deal.
That was a big deal.
Things changed. I'm going to take you to Italy. But now you know that she bought these 2 tickets, right?
Correct.
Okay. And there's no question in my mind, so pay attention. There's no question in my mind that she told you about the exchange policy. You know, you couldn't just cancel it and get your money back. That's one of the reasons that you got a cheap fare, right?
Correct.
Okay. And on what date do you break up?
February the 3rd? Or I'm sorry, April 3rd or April 2nd, somewhere around
Fine.
there?
So a few weeks after she purchased the tickets, which you can use, right? You can use it. So use it. It can't be transferred to anyone whose name is not your name, which is Gamblin.
Correct.
So only Mr. Gamblin can use the ticket. And I assume, since you weren't lying to her when you say you go to Italy every summer, right?
Correct.
Why don't you use the ticket to go?
Well,
well is not a good answer. And don't try to make things up. If you go to Italy every summer, why don't you use this ticket, which was a good deal?
Because she broke my heart.
Who cares? I don't know.
I'm sorry. She broke my heart.
I don't. Well, that means that word.
Okay, so I could use a ticket, but the idea is that she is not just suing me for the ticket. She wants the money for the ticket.
No, just a second. You think she wants to send you to Italy?
No, I do not assume
Just a
that at
second.
all.
Well, what do you mean of course she wants the money for the ticket. She wants the money for your ticket. She wants the money for hers too. That she's not going to get. But she wants the money. She's not going with you. You're going to go use this ticket. What's wrong with that? She's already paid for the ticket.
Why can't I use another ticket I purchased up with my own money?
Because that would be vindictive and stupid. And you're not stupid, are you? I mean, you're arrogant, but you're not stupid.
No, I'm not stupid.
So it would be stupid for you if you have this ticket not to use it and to avoid being made a fool of in front of 10 million people and say, you know what, Miss Clark, it didn't work out, but I know you bought these tickets. I'm not paying for your ticket. Give me my ticket, which I have here. I'll give you the $2,000 for my ticket. I'll change the time, if that's what it takes to go. I'll change the time, and here's my half. We're not a couple anymore. Why wouldn't you do that?
Because from the beginning of our relationship, she never, ever asked for any money in return. She always bought everything for
Just
us.
a second. I don't care. Right now, you're not in a relationship.
That's true.
She doesn't care about you anymore. I don't care whether you do care about her, whether you don't care about her. I'm just asking you a very logical question. Why can't you use this ticket to go, which is a perfectly good ticket? Pay her for the ticket and go. You would pay for the ticket anyway, unless the airline is going to pay for your ticket for nothing. You're going to pay for an airline ticket. Why not pay her for the airline ticket that she got in March, which is probably a much better deal than you can get in April or May? I'm just looking for a logical reason. And don't tell me about your heart, because I don't care about your heart. And don't tell me about the beginning of your relationship. I'm talking meat and potatoes here to you, Gamblin. Do you understand? Is there any reason why you don't use this ticket?
I don't want to use it because she bought it.
You're a moron.
That's simple.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,000. Your counterclaim is dismissed. That's all.
And now, the next case. All parties in the matter of Lampton versus Trotter. Step forward.
24-year-old Alyssa Lampton is suing fellow motorist Angelica Trotter for running into her in a parking lot.
Miss Lampton, it is your claim that the defendant hit your car in a parking lot. You were backing out of a parking space.
Yes.
She was coming down the road.
Yes.
Somebody have a photograph of this parking lot?
I do have a video.
I'd like to take a look at it. Is that a video of the accident?
Yes.
Just tell me the date that it took place.
It took place July 16th of this year.
And I assume both of you have insurance?
Yes. Yes.
And had insurance at the time of the accident?
Yes, I did.
Fine. What do you think, Miss Trotter?
Fellow motorist Angelica Trotter owes for an accident in a parking lot. Angelica claims the accident was Alyssa's fault.
Now, the truth of the matter is that sort of stuff happens all the time.
Right.
Usually the car that's backing out is supposed to stop because the car that's going down the road has the right of way. But the car that's coming down the road is, since they know that cars come in and out, should also not be going too fast.
Well, I was going
Let's play it again and see how fast you were going. That's pretty fast. Anybody want to say anything? I am absolutely prepared to make a judgment. I love videos.
All I want to say is understanding that it was an accident, the car could have been covered if it was insured. Our insurance attempted to make a claim or whatever the case may be, and we got a letter here stating that on that day in question.
May I see it?
It was not insured.
May I see? So your insurance company tried.
Well, yeah, because we
tried to get the
given
damage.
Tickets. We weren't given tickets, so we didn't know who was at fault. But we were going to try to get the cars fixed.
Okay, so her insurance is Progressive, and they were unable to find any.
No, her insurance.
My insurance is Progressive.
That's Progressive sending us that letter stating that she wasn't insured. It said there was no coverage.
Your Honor, I have verification for my insurance. I have liability insurance. I had liability insurance for my car.
This doesn't tell me that on the date of this incident, on July 16th, that your car was insured.
It says specifically when I had my insurance from April, and it ends at October 6th. When I got into the car accident, I knew I had liability insurance, which would mean that was an $1,000 deductible that I can't pay.
Well, you have to pay. The accident was partially your fault. The accident was at least 50% your fault.
I don't think it was my fault at all.
Well, I don't care what you think. I just saw it. And I'm telling you, what you have to do when you're pulling out of a spot is you pull out very, very slowly, because the car that's going down the road has the right of way. So you're supposed to pull out very, very slowly. Now, I saw how you were pulling out, and I don't know what kind of car you were driving. Some cars have those televisions so that you can see when you're pulling out. I have that in one car. I got used to using it too, by the way. But I have one where it's an old car, and you have to creep out of a parking space until you are clear.
Your Honor, and I do understand that. I was parked between two cars, and I did slowly come out. And she neither attempted to honk the horn or stop. I didn't.
Let me explain something to you. I've seen the video.
And she was also on the phone.
I've seen the video. I've seen the video.
She had a lot of tin on her window.
I'm telling you.
Couldn't see me.
Hey, listen.
Tennessee legal in Illinois.
I don't have to listen.
You were in Indiana.
I don't have to listen anymore. Did you have damage to your car?
Yes, I did. And we had to fix it.
And you fixed it? Did you have damage to your car?
Yes.
Did you fix it?
No.
You should. Just a second.
If I was at fault, and let's say I did see her, am I supposed to hurry up and drive back into my spot because I let her go? And not only that, but there's pedestrians and visitors and patients that come in the parking lot.
This is a lot of if. I just saw the video, which to me is better than any statement that you could give or any statement that she can give. Do you understand? I think that this accident resulted as a result of both of you being at fault. That's comparative negligence. That's what I find. I find each of you is responsible for damage. How much damage was done to your car?
It took about $400.
Not about.
It was $400 to get it fixed.
And how much was the damage to your car?
If my deductible would have covered it, I would have been covered for over $6,441.
Just a second. But you had insurance, you said, with a $1,000 deductible.
Yes.
Great.
The blue book on her car is $7,000. It cost $6,000 to get a $7,000.
Listen, I don't care. That's not what we're. Not what we're talking about.
All right.
She has the capability to fix her car if she wants to with her insurance. She said she has a $1,000 deductible. Now, do you have evidence to show me that you paid $400 to have your car fixed?
I don't have that with me.
All right. Well, if you don't have that with you, this was the time to bring it.
Yeah.
So your out-of-pocket expense is $1,000.
Yes.
Great. She's going to pay you $500. The rest you pay. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Have a seat, please.
Who are you?
Maureen.
You're the sister-in-law.
The wife of Greg, the sister-in-law to Cheryl.
That's your sister?
Yes.
And that's your sister-in-law?
Exactly.
You can sit down.
Thank you.
Mr. Fishback, I have a complaint here. It's signed by you alone.
Correct.
Not your wife. Now, you're suing your sister for season tickets to hockey games.
Correct.
That you claim you purchased with the understanding that your sister would pay you back for her tickets. She had two?
No, we had two together.
Two together.
I'm suing her for one.
And your agreement was, according to you, that when your mother's house was sold, the proceeds of the house would be divided 3 ways. There were 3 siblings?
No. The agreement to the house was I bought most of the shares from her earlier in agreements, and the agreement was when I paid her for the rest of her share of her house, she would pay me for the 1 hockey ticket that she owed me.
And the house was in fact sold?
No. I bought them out for the rest of it. I still own the house.
Do you live there?
I live there. I've lived there since...
Okay. And it is your claim that you did in fact pay her out?
Yes, it is.
How much did you pay her?
I paid her $13,000.
And she didn't give you the money that you laid out for her hockey ticket?
That is correct.
That's
she refused
your
to
claim.
pay me.
Ms. Fishback says that there was never an agreement to pay you back, that they were always your hockey tickets, not hers, that you controlled them, that you told her when she could go and when she could not go to the games. And she's got a counterclaim for some
That is not true.
Shh. I'm telling you what her claim is. She has a counterclaim. She says that before you were supposed to, you moved some stuff that she was storing in the house, and you moved it into storage, and some stuff was missing. In any event, let's get to the hockey tickets. What team were they for?
Minnesota Wild.
Have you always had season hockey tickets?
No, that's...
Was this the first time?
This is the first time.
Tell me about when you discussed with your sister buying the 2 tickets.
I signed up for a waiting list for season tickets. And we...
You did?
Yes, but we went down together. I didn't want to go alone. And we went down together and pick out the seat.
You and your sister?
Me and my sister.
When did you go to pick out the seats?
That was in 2006.
And so these are lifetime seats?
No, we just paid for them for the 1 year because after that year I didn't want to pay for 1 hockey ticket all myself.
Just a second, so you're telling me that this lawsuit is 10 years old? That it's from 2006 that you think she owes you for a hockey ticket?
Because I agreed with her at the
Just a second. I want you to answer my question.
Yes.
So what you're saying is that the hockey season in 2006 is the season we're talking about.
2006, 2007.
And after that, you did not go to hockey games with her?
Yeah, we went to all the hockey games together except for a few.
I'm talking about after 2007.
No, except when I gave her the season tickets to repurchase, and so she took me to a couple games.
Mr. Fishback.
After that.
Mr. Fishback, I'm not following you. And if I'm not following you, nobody else is following you. Is what you're telling me, sir, that the only time you had season hockey tickets was in the hockey season 2006 and 2007 with your sister?
Yes.
And the amount that you're suing her for, this $4,800, dates back to a debt that is now almost 10 years old. Is that correct?
Yes, because she agreed to pay me when I paid her for the rest of the house, which I did in September 16th, 2015.
Now, you had your mother's house and you lived there, and the house was paid out because your mother is deceased?
It was divided up, yes.
Just answer my question.
Yes.
When did your mother pass away? In what year? And since 1998, who has lived in her home?
Me.
Who else?
In 2007, I got married, and my wife and stepdaughter lived with me there.
Had the house been appraised?
Yes.
For what amount?
Last deal I made with her was appraised at $250,000, and I guaranteed her not to lose any money on the deal.
In total, how much money did you give your sister for her share of the house?
I believe it was about more than $21,000. It was a quarter of the value of the house.
Well, you said the house was appraised to $250,000.
So she got a quarter of the value of the house, whatever that figures out to. I'm not real good at math.
That's $62,500.
That is correct. I financed it.
That's what she should have gotten.
No, because I financed it over the period of time and paid her little in chunks. The last agreement I did with her said I owed her $13,000.
When was that agreement?
That was February 10th, 2005. I got the agreement right here.
I'd like to see it, please. Does that agreement mention hockey tickets?
Nope, because that was before the hockey tickets were purchased.
Oh, so this agreement was in February 2006?
No, 2005 on the top.
No, it says February 10th, 2006. This is the date, February 10th, 2006.
First line says it was...
I understand what it says. This says February 10th, 2006. That's what this says. First thing on the page.
That is a typo error then.
I'd like to see when the hockey tickets were purchased.
This is a statement that I tore the bottom half and paid for the season tickets in the first in one payment. That's because she said she couldn't afford to pay for one ticket at the time. When we looked at the...
Lord, I'm looking, there's not a date on here, is that correct?
2006, 2007 season.
I'm looking for the date of the sale of the tickets.
It was before the 2006 season. There is no date when I paid them on there. It just states the tickets were for...
Is what you're telling me that you purchased these tickets in 2005 or 2006?
2006.
Do you recall what month?
I believe it says there the due date on it is in May. It says payment must be made for a certain date.
May of 2006.
Correct. So I paid in May, before May of 2006.
Well, could you explain to me, Mr. Fishback, in February of 2006, according to this agreement, you gave your sister $5,100.78. So she had money.
I don't know what she did with the money.
Just a second.
She told me she didn't have money. She had some legal problems with her son, I believe, during that time.
Is that right?
No, I did not have legal problems with my son.
Well, you want to tell me what you did with the $5,100 that you got in February, if you remember, of 2006?
It's kind of hard to think back that far. I know
You're
I cashed the check.
Correct.
I cashed the check and put it in my bank account. I do know that, and what I did with it, I truly don't recall.
Well, I would like to know, you see, what your brother is saying is that he, out of his pocket, spent $5,637 for 2 tickets that you helped select. You went with him to help select the tickets. I don't think you deny that. Is that correct?
I don't deny that, but I don't really recall that.
And that you went to the games with him.
I did go to games with him at his invite.
The games with him. Whenever you wanted to go or whenever there were games.
He controlled the tickets, and I went when I was invited.
Well, that's what you say. That's not what he says. What he says is you could have gone to all the games if you wanted to. Now, was there ever a game that your sister wanted to go to when you said she couldn't go? You just held on to the season passes.
No, I just kept the tickets at the house because I paid for them and they were sent in my name. And so she never asked for her ticket.
Did she go with you to all the games?
She went to me with all the games except for a couple that she let me take my wife when I was dating her then because I married her in 2007. Mm-hmm. And I gave her a couple tickets to where she could take whoever she wanted to with. We traded a couple tickets for that right.
Can you tell me why, Mr. Fishback, since this agreement that you made had, according to you, had as of its date that she was supposed to pay you, the date of your final installment to her on the house, that was in total $13,000. That was made when, this year?
That was made this year in September 16th.
And would you tell me, when you gave her the final installment, how much was the final installment?
I had to give her $13,000 because she refused to come into the bank to sign for her share of the tickets that me and my brother had arranged to be done. And when we met at the bank, she said I owed her 3 things: a stole, my mom's funeral book, and a trailer hitch. I had the trailer hitch that I didn't believe I owed her, but me and my brother agreed to get her into the bank to sign the papers that we would buy the trailer hitch together. So I bought the trailer hitch she wanted together with my brother. He paid me half for it. And at that time, we met her at the bank, and I says, here's the trailer hitch.
What's your brother's name?
Jeff. I said, I got the trailer hitch, but I do not have the mink stole because I wasn't at the house and the funeral book wasn't at the house. I couldn't find it. It was not there. So she grabbed the trailer hitch, took it, and went into her front seat of her car, got in her car, and started to drive off. I ran in front of the car and stopped her. Then she started to back up. My brother ran in back of the car and stopped her, and we talked to her into coming in the house. Bank to sign it off.
What did she say she wanted?
She wanted the mink stole and the funeral book.
But the mink stole wasn't there.
No.
And if somebody wanted a mink, if it was an important enough item for her to have, she would have had the mink stole. So the mink stole is ridiculous. Because how long was the mink stole in the house? How long was the mink stole in the house?
Since my mom moved into the house.
All right, so that's ridiculous.
It was there since she left.
It's ridiculous.
And it was still in there at the time.
It's ridiculous.
Cheryl Fishback owes for season tickets to hockey games. Cheryl claims there was no agreement to pay for the tickets.
Now, did you want more of a share of the proceeds of the house? Look at me. Did you want more of the share of the proceeds?
That was not it.
What did you want?
I wanted my belongings, which were stolen.
Just a second. They weren't your belongings, first of all. The mink stole didn't belong to you. The mink stole belonged to your mother, which means you could chop it in 3 or 4 parts if there were 3 or 4 siblings. The trailer hitch, he said he got one for you that you actually took, correct? So I'm asking you, what else was it that you really wanted at the bank?
There was nothing at the bank that I really wanted.
Well,
I was forced to go to the bank to sign. I have a voice message that.
But that's what your agreement. That was your agreement with your brother.
And my other brother voted for it too.
I'm not. When I'm looking at you, I'm asking you a question. If I'm not looking at you, don't speak to me. That was your agreement. So what was your problem?
It was the conditions to it. He did not turn over the items to me.
Well, that's too bad. There's nothing in this agreement that provides for any items.
And those
items, not your items anyway.
Excuse me, they were my items when we divvied up the inheritance in 2002, I think it was, or 2000, and we had an agreement.
You had an agreement that what?
As long as money was in the house, we could keep some of our belongings stored there. I had my belongings there since I...
You named the 3 things that were there. You named a mink stole that belonged to your mother. You named pearls that you claimed belonged to you, which if I had pearls since 2002, they would have been with me, not 14, 15 years later. So I discount that completely. And then a trailer hitch, which he said, we will buy you, which they did. Did they buy you the trailer hitch?
Yes.
Fine. So that there's nothing else there that I'm considering. Who are you?
I'm Karen Dorff. I'm her sister, and I was a quarter owner in that house when my mother died. And I had interest in that house, and I had things that disappeared.
Who cares? I don't care.
Part of the agreement...
Listen to me. You got paid. I read the agreement. Put your hand down. You got paid. That was his agreement with you. You signed off on it, and both of you accepted money. You accepted the money.
Correct.
Because back when this was signed, you no longer had any interest in it, because how much money did you get?
About the same as she did.
Okay. So you got money. That's what it was all about.
Excuse me.
Now, what I don't understand about your claim, sir, is that you're suing for $4,800.
I'm suing for interest.
You're not going to get interest. You'd be lucky if you got...
And duress for her putting me through this hassle.
Oh, well, that's ridiculous. The duress is on me. Let me be honest with you, sir. I believe that you had an agreement with your sister to use these hockey tickets together, and that you let her use some with either her son or her friend or whatever in exchange for her letting you take your fiancé to a couple of games. But other than that, you went together. And I believe that there was a discussion between the two of you that said, when I finish paying you off her mom's house, you'll give me the money for the hockey tickets. Because I don't think a man like you is going to make his sister a gift of $2,800. Just doesn't sound logical to me. What kind of work were you doing in 2006?
I working for the CP Railroad as a freight carman, fixing freight cars and running around picking up derailments.
And how much did you earn, if you remember back then?
I don't remember back then, but I probably $1,000 or more.
So that almost $3,000 was a lot of money.
Yes.
I don't think he made you a gift of almost $3,000. I think he said, I can wait for the money until all the finances are straightened out between us, and we can enjoy each other's company at the hockey games, something we both enjoy. I believe that. And I believe that the kerfuffle that you're all feeling now has to do with maybe the house has appreciated in value over the course of the last 10 years. Maybe he's put money into it. I don't know. Quite frankly, I don't care. All I can tell you is your mother would be very disappointed in all 3 of you, because I assume that there was a time when all 3 of you were friends and got along. Certainly you got along with this sister because you went to hockey games with her, even after your mother died. So you must have had a close relationship. And it's absolutely so ridiculous for people to fight over nothing. A mink stole that you didn't wear and that wasn't important to you for 14 years, that you left there. All of a sudden it becomes a metzia, something that you have to have. How many years was the trailer hitch in the house? Just give me a year.
It was not in the house.
Where was it?
I had it in my truck, and he came and borrowed it from me and said he'd return it, and never returned it.
In what year?
I do not know the year.
Well, was it 5 years ago? Was it 10 years ago? Was it 2 years ago? How many years ago?
I don't.
Do you remember?
I didn't borrow the hitch.
Just a second.
Just a second. And my brother
well, you
says he
both don't
did.
remember, so it can't be too recent. So you were without a trailer hitch, clearly something that you didn't miss. I don't believe that there were pearls there that were yours, because I wouldn't leave pearls if I wanted to wear them for 14 years in storage in a house.
Excuse me, the pearls disappeared right after my mom died, and I kept asking him for those pearls.
Well, just a minute. Then you're too late. You're too late. Your mother died in 1998? You owe him $2,800 for the plaintiff. That's all. Your counterclaim's dismissed. We're done.
Judge, that was 28-18-50.
We're done.
So, in the matter of Ikuzi versus Pottle. Parties have been sworn in. You're welcome. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
Ms. Ikuzi, it is your claim that the defendant assaulted you. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor. Before we get started, my pronoun is he. I made that clear. My name is Lee, and my pronoun is he. And
I didn't see that. I have Lisa.
Yeah, also known as Lee Ikuzi.
Okay.
I'm a trans.
It is your claim that the defendant assaulted you, Mr. Ikuzi, and the defendant says that quite the contrary, it was you who assaulted him. How do you know each other?
I met Dean Pottle when I was the Portland International Hostel manager, and I was in charge of the facilities at the time, and I also lived there. Dean came to my residence at the hostel looking for work. He was actually homeless at the time, and I took him in.
All right, so that's how you met him.
Yep.
When did this alleged assault take place?
April 2nd, 2005.
Tell me the circumstances, please.
I had a business transaction with Dean Pottle that failed. He was supposed to do a plumbing job for me in exchange for me mowing a lawn for him. I also had $1,000 worth of oil paintings in his house that we were going to exchange for him to do plumbing services. I went over to his house 2 times. Both times I brought my witness, and on the second time I was assaulted.
Tell me how you were assaulted.
I brought my friend Buddy. There was a driveway that separated Buddy, Dean, and myself. I was leaning back on the car that was separated about 4 feet of driveway to Dean's house. Dean was arguing with Buddy. I told Dean that I was going to tell everybody that he's bisexual, and he ran 2 big full steps. It pushed his arm, swung me around into the car.
Just a minute. You went very quickly.
Yes.
You said you ran 2 steps?
No. I was leaning against the car here, and there was Dean's house.
Just a second. First you threatened to tell people that he was a bisexual?
Right, because he harassed me.
How was he harassing you when you came to his house?
I was at his house to collect money and my oil paintings.
I didn't hear how he was harassing you.
He harassed me 3 days before, and I was still upset about the incident. And
how did he harass you 3 days before?
I was at his house. I was massaging his hands. He went into the bathroom to take off his shirt to massage his shoulders. He came out butt naked and asked me to play with his...
So then why would you go back to his house?
Well, I brought a witness with me because I had $1,000 worth of paintings that
Did you get your paintings?
The second time that I arrived at the defendant's house, I did get my paintings.
And what I'm asking you is, why did you have any exchange with him at all if you had your paintings?
Within the hour of the assault, at the beginning of the assault, I came in, brought a friend, asked him to go get my paintings, which I needed.
So he went and got your paintings?
Right. While I was getting my paintings, Dean came outside.
Just a second. Your paintings are in the car? If all 3 of you were there...
Paintings are in the car.
So now they're in the car.
Right.
Why aren't you in the car leaving?
Because he owes me more money. He owes me money.
Untrue.
He owes money from doing a plumbing job that he refuses to pay me. So I'm asking for my money. He refuses to pay me.
Put your hand down, please.
He refuses to pay me. And we have a verbal exchange. We've been friends for 7 years. I was really upset at what he did to me. I'm going through this transition. I felt he was taking advantage of me.
Keep going.
And words were exchanged. He walked 2 steps up to me and pushed me into a car. I swung back and got him off me. And
when you swung back, you hit him.
Well, he was on top of me. He was on top of me. He pushed me into a car, and he was on top of me.
How was he on top of you?
I have fingerprints. He pushed me like this, and he was on top of me right here when he pushed me. I leaned back, and I hit him.
I only defended myself.
Let me hear what happened, sir.
Well, when I followed him out with the paintings, and the car was out on the street, and I stood back at my driveway, probably 20 feet away from the car. When he went toward the car to put the paintings in the street, she came out of the vehicle and came toward me. Now, she was nowhere near the vehicle. Now, she came toward me very aggressively and yelling profanities and everything else, so I instinctively put my hand out to defend myself. And when she came close to me, I went like this and said, "Get out of Portland." because I felt she didn't belong in our environment there. And I turned to look at him, and he says, "Oh, you touched her first." And when I looked back, she went, bam, like this, right against my lip here. And I staggered back, yelled at me, and that's when she left.
First of all, sit up. Second of all, don't speak until I speak to you. Okay. Do you have a photograph of your injury?
No, I don't.
Do you have a photograph of your injury?
I have documentation of medical records.
I'd like to see it, please. Now you can step up, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Tell me your name.
My name is Buddy Bercu.
Spell your last name.
B-E-R-C-U. It's Romanian.
Left hand, left arm,
Kind of
Bruce.
difficult the first time. Anyways.
All right, now I ask questions.
Yes, go ahead.
I ask questions. Please. The paintings are in the car.
Okay, the paintings are in the car. I come back. He comes out, and the car is parked right by the driveway.
Who's in the car?
No one's in the car. They're both arguing with each other, and I'm like, okay, let them vent a little bit and get some of this out, you know, because...
Just a second.
I
Where
don't want to
were they
intervene.
as you were putting the paint? I'm speaking. You're not paying attention
When they
to
were
me.
putting the paintings were already in the car, you said.
Listen to me.
Okay.
Listen. Try.
I'm trying.
Putting on your listening ears.
I will.
You're putting the paintings in the car.
That's correct.
And he's letting you take the paintings.
That's correct.
Now, the last of the paintings is in the car, right?
That's correct.
Why didn't you both get in the car and leave?
Because, Your Honor, this isn't about that. It's about the disrespect and the way that the abuse had gone down in the first place. And he had not said he was sorry.
You're talking about this incident 3 days before that Lee has just described to me.
Apparently, Lee hadn't worked through the whole incident yet, Your Honor.
Then he was angry.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Got it. See how easy it is to get to the truth?
Can I give you some more truth, or do you want?
Can I get to the truth? Absolutely. Can you give me some more bald facts, sir?
Yes, sir.
I
Yes, ma'am.
determine what the truth is.
I understand that.
You understand?
You're the judge.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
It's over. Finished. Who has an order of protection?
His former friend Dean Pottle assaulted him. Dean claims he was only protecting himself.
Okay. So far we have somebody who wanted their paintings, made 3 trips, got the paintings, but according to you and your Lee's witness, Lee wasn't finished being angry about something that happened 3 days before and wanted an apology.
That's correct, Your Honor.
I got it.
And then what happened was he said, instead of, I have a restraining order on you or get out of my property, he said, get out of Portland, which I thought was a little bit wide of a swath for his powers. I mean, Portland's a big place. And then he approached, what he did was he just said, basically, get out of Portland, get out of Portland. And the third get out of Portland, like rushed like he was doing a shot put. And just the whole body, everything came through, but not upward, but straight, like a thrust, and hit. And I could see that she grimaced in pain, and she was crying out. And then what happened simply is a counterattack just to save face. Because I would imagine transitioning to become a man, you have to prove to other men you're a man. So that's why I stayed away from this up until this point. I didn't feel there was any danger up to that point where I had to intervene. I got some heat for that. Say, well, I should have just kicked his, I wasn't going to do that. So anyway, I don't think violence solves anything. And at any rate, what happened was he said, you can't hit me. Or you can't hit me, I'll kill you, or something. I don't remember what it was exactly. Something to that effect. Just was really surprised that Lee would counterattack. And then I just stepped in and said, look, you hit Lee first. And just kind of diffuse him.
Did you see his bloody lip?
No, he had no bloody lip. There's no... It was... The hand, she was like this, because, it was not a closed fist. And I never use a fist, because you could not close it.
I'm not asking interested whether you use a fist
But
or
I'm
not.
just saying, you can hurt your hands.
Okay. I'm not interested whether you use a fist or not. It's not particularly relevant here.
I want you to stop. You don't even make any fun of yourself. I want you to stop.
Shh.
I apologize.
You're killing me.
When was the first time that you were prescribed Vicodin?
I've had an ongoing neck and conditioning.
Right. I see that. So you had all kinds of problems that you were prescribed Vicodin for and all kinds of other pain medication.
Right.
Listen, you both behaved badly. You're not supposed to hit her. She's not supposed to come onto your property aggressively, which is exactly what she did. You're not supposed to push her. You're not supposed to punch him. It's over. Finished. Who has an order of protection? Either one of you?
I'm going to get one from both of them.
Well, that's a very, very good idea, sir.
Thank you.
And do me a favor, get one for me, too. That's all.
Ma'am.
Who's this?
This is my mother, Your Honor.
How old are you?
22.
And you, sir?
35.
You work in the same place of business?
At one time we did, yeah.
And I gather from reading your complaint, sir, that despite the fact that this young lady is much too young for you, you had a little crush on her.
A little bit, yeah. At one time, then I found out her age.
And you needed some money because your car was an impound.
Yes, ma'am.
How come you asked the plaintiff for a loan?
Well, I was at work one night and frustrated because my car was impounded, and he had asked me what was wrong. And I told him.
What was your car doing impounded?
I'm not sure. I think I was. It was a charge. I was arrested, and my car was impounded.
What do you mean you're not sure? You think my car was arrested? I was arrested. My car was impounded. What kind of ridiculousness is that? I asked you a question. What was your car doing in impound?
I had been arrested.
There you go. For what?
They thought that my car was stolen, but it wasn't, in fact, and they impounded my car.
Who were you driving with?
A friend.
Male or female?
Male.
Was he arrested too?
No.
Just you?
Yes.
Who was driving?
I was.
How old is your friend?
I think he is 22.
So they found out that your car wasn't stolen?
Yes.
How long was the car in impound?
14 days.
You mean it took the police department 14 days to figure out that it wasn't stolen?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you speeding?
No. A cop just saw me down the road and pulled me over.
How many children do you have? You have to think about that?
Two by birth, three. I have a stepson also. She's my oldest.
Is the younger one smarter?
Yes.
All right, so Mr. Hanoyan gave you money to get your car out of impound, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
According to your complaint, Mr. Hanoyan, now that I've sort of kneaded this case a little bit, I don't like slippery, you agreed to loan her the money.
Yes, I did.
And in exchange, she would allow you to have possession of the car. You didn't have the car at the time for 2 months, and within that 2-month period of time, she would return to you the $535, and you would give her back a car. That was your agreement.
That was the original
Is that
agreement.
right?
Yes, ma'am.
When did you give her the money?
On May 27th.
And when did she let you take the car?
On the same day, well, she drove it at first, but she eventually gave me the car.
And how long did you keep the car?
About 2.5 weeks.
What happened?
Well, one night she asked to borrow it.
What did she say?
She said, I need to go with my friends. She was always with this one crony girlfriend that she'd go and they'd go do an errand. She didn't say where or whatever, but then she came back. She was way late, and I was worried about she was going to take the car. I was trusting her the whole time. I was trusting her. She did bring back the original time. The second time she borrowed the car, she said she was going to pick up her mom from the Greyhound bus depot. Never saw her again after that. Never called, never called. I tried to reach her, and she just denied my calls and cussed me out and stuff like that.
Now, Ms. Cole, you say you took the car back because?
I took the car back because Mr. Hanoyan had come over. He would come over like once or twice a week to show me the car, and he, in fact, in the contract said that he would fix the car, any damages, or keep up the oil, keep gas in it, tune up,
which I did.
all kinds. Shh. And every time he would come over, there, in fact, he hadn't got an oil change. I told him 3 times to get an oil change. Every time he came over.
You only had the car for a week?
No, he had the car for about a month.
No, that's a lie.
I took the car back about 2 weeks before the end of the contract.
How much money had you paid him?
I paid him about, I given him like $20 here, $40 there every time he would come over.
Ms.
Probably
Cole,
about half.
Ms. Cole, listen to me.
Yes.
You paid him nothing.
That's right.
Because if you had paid him something, you would have said so in your answer. So you paid him nothing.
No, I paid him like $20 here, $40 there every time he came over.
That's what you just said to me. I just told you you're a liar. Because in your answer, well, you gave me a whole big long story. Nowhere did it say you gave him any money. You get it? Now, if you didn't like the way he was taking care of your car, you had every right to take it back. You still owe him the $535.
He did, in fact, breach his contract. He had told me that he had a driver's license. I actually have a copy.
What does that have to do? Listen to me. Listen to me. You did say, listen to me, madam, mother, the younger one is smarter, right?
Yes.
If you choose to take the car back because he did not have a driver's license, he wasn't taking good care of it, that's fine. You still owe him the money.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand?
Oh, I understand completely.
Did you try to explain it to her?
Yeah, I tried to explain it to her, but I was never clear on the entire situation. And
now you're clear.
Well, Dan
he had
was
the car.
me.
He had the car. Yeah. The car was a mere perk for him. He was to keep the car, but she was to pay him. Keep the car for that 2 months. I was a thank you.
But
thank
he was calling me for the money way from the very beginning.
Well, because listen to me. He shouldn't have called you.
No.
Shouldn't have called you. Shouldn't have bothered you. But I want you to understand the agreement that your daughter had, because she's got this vacant look between her ears that frightens me.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She's a baby.
Says former friend Kaylin Cole owes for a loan to get her car out of impound.
The car loan was a perk. Allowing him to use the car merely said, thank you for loaning me this money. I will pay you back. The fact that you took the car back because you didn't like the way he was taking care of the car doesn't mean that you don't have to pay him. Oh, I have to go now. Listen to me. If you hang around with babies, that's what's going to happen.
You're right.
She's a baby, not a very smart one. I don't know about you. Doesn't sound like you're very clever either. You get involved with somebody who's 22 years old.
Yeah.
22 years old at work doesn't sound too smart.
I made a mistake. That's
Well, it was a big mistake. Meanwhile, you're entitled to your $535 judgment for the plaintiff.
Thank you, Judy.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think he kind of likes me, but
Well, she's a good-looking girl, but she's a girl, not a woman.
I'll never do that again.
Justice has been served.
Figo versus Strickland. Step forward.
Maria Becca Figo is suing her ex-fiancé, Robert Michael Strickland, for credit card bills and the return of a Dr. Seuss sculpture.
Mr. Strickland, I'm going to go directly to you.
Okay.
I put together, from both your complaint and your answer, what seems to be a relatively easy story to tell, but then I have to come to you for the answers.
Okay.
You and the plaintiff were together for a very long time as a couple, even engaged at some point, according to both the complaint and the answer. You lived together. That ended about a year ago, but you remained friends. As a matter of fact, according to both of you, when you came into town on business, you would very often stay at the plaintiff's apartment, whether she was there or not there, because you saved some money and you were friends. You kept in touch. When you were together as a couple, you amassed a large credit card bill. And when you separated, you decided that you would arrange to split those expenses somehow. And you agreed to pay to the plaintiff $400 a month towards the credit cards for a period of 1 year, from August 2004 until August of 2005. And that's what you did, just shy of the year, 3 months shy of the year. Every month you sent her $400, she paid off the credit card bills. Then one day, probably in June, was it in June, you stayed over at her house?
April.
April. Stayed at her house, and according to the plaintiff, you found some evidence that she was involved with somebody on a serious basis.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes,
You didn't know about that,
that's correct.
and that was the last time that you paid the $400.
Yes.
In addition, when you left her apartment, you took a sculpture that had been in her apartment for the 8 months that you were separated, because now you say it was your sculpture.
Well, I believed it was my sculpture the entire time.
So is that the story? That's the case.
Exactly.
You want your $1,600 back, and you want your sculpture back.
Actually, I lowered that amount. I've realized that he did give me one last payment in April, so he actually only owes me for 3 months, so $1,200 instead of $1,600.
Great. And you want your sculpture
back. Yes.
Now I want you to tell me why she shouldn't get her $1,200 and the sculpture back.
Well, first of all, Your Honor, I have the invoice from the gallery where I purchased the sculpture, and it has my name only. And in October of 2004, I made a lump sum payment of $6,200 towards her credit cards. I think this is more than fair. The reason I was paying her $400 a month is because I felt sorry for her. She told me she could not make her living expenses based on her salary and continue to make even the minimum payments on her credit card debt. And as in April, when I found the evidence, I realized that...
Well, she wasn't hiding anything from you, sir. You weren't a couple anymore.
Well, the fact is that I thought we were going to get back together. There was never a clear breakup. In fact, after she went on a trip to Costa Rica together, we went on a trip to South America together.
How did she get the sculpture?
She took it and went to her apartment.
Explain how that happened. You had evidently acquired a lot of things while you were together as a couple.
Right.
You took some things.
Mm-hmm.
What did you take?
I kept some of the possessions in the house. She also took a dining table and some other pieces of art.
Is that by agreement?
Yes, but I never intended for her to have it permanently.
I don't think what was in your mind.
I don't think there was never a clear agreement.
When you said, well, you were living...
We wrote it down. We had a list of the major household items, and it had my name and his name, and we checked off which ones we wanted. And then when there were items, you know, like I took the kitchen items because I cook and he doesn't. So when we got to the items that we both wanted, such as the sculpture and the other pieces of artwork, we finally agreed...
What other pieces of artwork?
We have 2 other Dr. Seuss pieces of artwork that
you have a picture of this? piece of art?
The
only have
one
a
in
piece.
question, yes.
Yes. Can I see it, please?
It's the one on the left.
Okay. How many pieces of this Dr. Seuss art do you have?
We had 3 total when we were together. And he ended up with 2 of them, and I ended up with 1 of them.
And this was on the list that you prepared?
Yes.
When you no longer were living together, was that at the end of a lease, or did you just separate?
No, we just separated.
Were you living in an apartment?
Yes.
Who stayed in the apartment?
I did.
For how long? After you separated?
Well, see, there's never a clear separation.
Yes, there was a separation when when you turn over at night and you don't see somebody there, you know she's gone.
Well,
Mr. Strickland, you keep saying it, but, you know,
Well,
if
Your
I woke
Honor,
up in the morning and
actually,
said,
before that-
we used to, we used to sit at the dining room table and have dinner together. She's not here anymore. It would give me some clue that you were no longer together. So let's answer my question, not dance around, because believe me,
Can I give an explanation for that?
No.
Okay.
Because especially if there's a list, you take this, I'm taking this, you take this, I'm taking this, your name, his name. What's your first name?
Maria.
And yours?
Michael.
Maria, Michael, Michael, Maria, 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 Michael, Michael, Michael. And then she leaves. And when she left, and she took the sculpture with her, and the dining room table or the kitchen stuff or whatever she took with her, you didn't call the police and report it stolen, did you?
No, I did not.
Because you anticipated that you still might get together and be a couple.
Correct.
That didn't happen. That doesn't mean you can take back the sculpture, Michael. You have to get over it.
Okay.
Happens.
I don't even know how he anticipated that.
You have to return it to her.
Okay.
You have 5 days to return it to her. And you agreed to give her, for whatever reason, because you were together, because there were tremendous credit card bills, because young people very often do that, which is very stupid, but you were together as a couple for how many years?
6 or 7.
Well, that's a long time. And how much in credit card bills did you have?
20,000, maybe more.
Well, that's what happens. And how much were the credit card bills that you personally were left with?
I would guess 15 or 20,000. I don't know exactly. I have not gone through and accumulated them.
You have not?
No.
Well, I suggest you get a financial planner and do that. In any event, you agreed to pay her $400 a month. You still owe her $1,200 on that debt. And within 5 days, Michael, you have to give her back her Dr. Seuss. She wants it.
Your Honor, I'm sorry. I no longer have the sculpture.
You get one.
Okay.
Get one. 5 days. You get it back to her. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Very good.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think it's greed, basically.
For me, it's just sad because she's always remained friends with exes, and it's not going to happen in this case. And, you know, all over a
Flowers versus Forges. Step forward.
Robert Flowers is suing his neighbor, Brian Forges, for damage to his car caused by fireworks.
Mr. Flowers, the defendant is your neighbor. He had a party. There was some fireworks at the party, and the fireworks damaged your car.
3 cars.
3 cars. And you recently ascertained that the insurance is going to pay for most of the damage that was done to the car, with the exception of, according to you, a couple of $100.
The deductible, $200.
Well, what kind of deductible do you have, sir?
Originally, they were going to put it on, I think, a collision type, and it was a $500 deductible for each car. And I just found out that they swapped it around and they put it under vandalism, and it's a $200 deductible.
So then what you're suing for is $200?
$200 plus my gas mileage.
What gas mileage?
To get the cars repaired, drive them down.
Now, I want you to explain to me why you shouldn't be responsible for this $200.
Well, number one, I wasn't the person who lit him. I offered to take care of his cleaning of his vehicles because he's my neighbor, to keep peace. But I didn't like the fireworks. So when he originally started his claim...
Just a minute. So what your defense is, that since you did not light the fireworks, you're not responsible?
Absolutely.
Okay. Tell me how many people you had at your party, Mr. Forges.
Well, it really wasn't a party. The party was a week later.
How many people were at your house?
About 8.
You know the names of all 8 people?
Yeah, most of them.
Don't play with me, sir. Do you know the names of the 8 people at your house?
Yes, I do.
Who invited them?
I did.
I mean, you didn't invite them by going out in the street and saying, hey, you. Right?
No, Your Honor.
So you invited 8 people to your house?
Yes, I did.
What were the names of the people who lit the fireworks?
Chris?
Chris what?
It's a friend of mine. I don't...
Good. Now we understand each other, sir, because this case is going to take no more than another 10 seconds.
Okay.
You have to pay him $200. That's his deductible. Then if you want to go against one of these people, Chris, Charlie, Bob, Gizmo, Snodgrass, you can do that. But when you... Try listening. I want you to put on your listening ears.
Okay.
All right? When you invite people to your home and you do not control them and they cause damage to neighbors' property, you are responsible. Do you get it?
Yes, I do.
Good. Now, ordinarily, I wouldn't give him the gas mileage that it took to get his cars from one place to another, to another, to another. But because you are so thick, I am. Judgment for...
Huff versus Wright. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat, please.
Ms. Huff, you work in a club or a bar?
Yes, ma'am.
And it is you. The defendant became an unruly patron in that bar. He went outside during some sort of conflict with the police.
Yes.
He fell up against your car.
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
And was, I don't know, sort of out of his mind with booze and whatever else. And he dented your car.
Yes.
You want him to pay for the damage.
Yes, I do.
Mr. Wright has an explanation of sorts. He said it is really not his fault because the reason he fell on the car was because the police tasered him. That caused him to fall back, hit his head. So if you want your car repaired, he said either go to the police, right?
Yes.
Or go to the club or bar where you work because they should have had better security, right?
Yes.
You know, I'm going to get to the ultimate issue of whose fault it is that her car, which you have to acknowledge, Mr. Wright, it was just sitting there, wasn't doing anything to you, right?
Right.
And you acknowledge that you fell up against her car.
Yes.
So I don't even have to go to the plaintiff. I'm going to come directly to you.
Okay.
Good. Where is this club located?
In Atlanta, Georgia.
What time did you arrive there that day?
About 12:30.
In the evening.
Yeah.
And on what date was this?
November 19th.
It's my husband's birthday.
Yeah.
All right, so you got to the club about midnight.
Yes.
Did you come alone or you with other people?
I was with a group of people.
How many people?
3.
Men, women?
Men.
Where had you been prior to 12 o'clock?
At one of my friend's house.
Which friend?
The guy I went to the club with.
He has a name.
Yes.
What's his name?
Simon.
What time had you arrived at his house?
About 8:30, 9 o'clock.
Did you go there alone?
Yes.
What were you doing at his house from 9 o'clock until midnight?
Watching TV.
Did you have anything to drink?
No.
Nothing?
Nope.
Have anything to do anything else with?
Nah, man.
So you were just hanging around. Now, what prompted you to go out to the club?
I had 2 days off, so I just wanted to go party, enjoy myself.
And what did you start to drink when you got there?
Heineken's.
How many did you have?
About 2.
Just 2?
Yeah.
So you weren't drunk?
No, I wasn't drunk.
Tell me what happened.
I got a confrontation with the club owner because he kicked me out the club and then kicked the other person out the club.
Why did he kick you out of the club?
Because me and this guy had a little argument in the club.
Well, tell me about that, Mr. Wright.
I'm sitting at the bar. The guy comes up to me and I guess he pushes on me, so I pushed him back. So my friends got up and, well, they pushed him. They tangled for a little while. They threw liquor on his face and stuff like that. And then the guy come to me and said it was my fault, so he kicked me out the club.
Did you follow all that?
I caught it all.
Just to recap.
Okay.
You're sitting at the bar doing nothing.
Yeah.
Somebody comes up and sort of pushes you.
Rub up on me, yeah.
What do you mean rubs up on you? He was trying to get past you. He was trying to order a drink. What was he trying to do?
Walking. Well, he pushed up on me.
He was walking?
Yes.
You saw this?
Yes.
Tell me what you saw.
Okay. First of all, he didn't come to the bar around like 12:30 because my shift started at 9 o'clock. And the reason why I first, noticed him is because he tried to holler at me. And I got him a Heineken. Holler at me in the manner, speaking of, he tried to ask me my name and try and get to know more about me so he could, take me out or something like that. And he did not just have 2 Heinekens.
Just a second, what time did he get there, Ms. Huff?
He got there around, I would say, 10:30 because the bar was just getting thick. And it was just getting thick. Like, there was just getting to be a lot of people in there. Around 10:30, 11 is the best time to come. And I personally served him at least 2. And then I've transferred him to another waitress. So, no, he did not just have only 2 Heinekens.
Okay. Tell me what you observed, if this pushing, rubbing, shoving match that he and his friends were involved with.
Okay. He was standing in the pool area. And I guess the guy had brushed by him.
This kind of pool?
Yeah, plain pool. And the guy had brushed by him, and his reaction was aggressive. It was like, man, get up off of me. And then the guy that he was saying that to that just brushed by him caught attitude back with him. And then they just started brawling. And that's when the bouncer, Red, came and got him and tossed him out. And he's like, oh, let me back in the club, let me back. He's arguing with Red, and Red's like, I'm not going to let you back in. You know what I'm saying? You're causing a disturbance. I'm not going to let you back in. And he was like, man, F this club. I'll shoot up this place and da-da-da-da. I'm like, okay. And that happens once in a while. So I've gotten used to it, to the point where if it's sad, but that's why I don't work there anymore. But
so at that point, somebody called the police?
Yes, the manager called the police.
Now, where are you at this point, Mr. Wright? In the parking lot?
Yes.
When you were put out of the club, were you trying to get back inside?
No.
You didn't say, let me back in?
Nope.
So Ms. Huff is lying?
Yes.
And she's lying about the fact that you got there between 10:30 and 11.
Yes.
And she's lying about the fact that you had substantially more than the 2 beers that you testified to before.
She's not lying about that. I probably had more.
Oh, well, so how many beers do you think you had?
I had 2 beers probably in a mixed drink.
2 beers and 1 mixed drink?
Yeah.
Maybe 2.
Maybe 2.
And what kind of mixed drinks do you drink?
Hennessy and Coke.
Well, then you're sure that you were having something else other than the 2 beers?
Yeah.
Okay. You do recognize the authority of the bouncer to put you out of the club, don't you?
Yes.
So if you were put out of the club, you would have gone peacefully.
Yes.
Was your friend put out of the club too?
No.
Just you?
Just me.
Somebody doesn't like you.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He's lying.
Her car was parked outside a nightclub when it was dented by Roberto Wright. Roberto says the damage occurred when he was wrongfully tasered by police.
Okay. So you were just outside and you were going to find a cab or something to take you home?
Yes.
Is that what you were going to do? You were trying to find a cab? See how I'm helping you, Mr. Wright.
Actually, I was waiting for my friends to come outside.
Where were you sitting and waiting?
I was in front of the club.
Did they come out before the police arrived?
Yes.
What happened when they came outside?
They was telling me just relax and don't worry about it.
Well, why would they tell you to relax and don't worry about it if you weren't upset? And you recognize the authority of the bouncer to put you out of the club? Why would your friends have...
Because I didn't think it was right what he did.
Well, tell me what happened when the police arrived.
Police came and told me to shut the F up, get out in front of the club.
They told you to be quiet?
Nah, not be quiet, shut the F up.
Well, I don't have to repeat it, but okay. In effect, they told you to be quiet because you were making a lot of noise.
Yes.
Well, why were you making a lot of noise, sir, if you accepted the authority of the bouncer to put you out of the club and were just waiting quietly for your friends? Why would the police tell you to be quiet?
I was making a lot of noise. I was just...
What kind of noise were you making?
I was just mad, like furious.
You were furious?
Yes.
Oh, now we're getting to it. So here we go. We're furious.
Yes.
Now, what were you doing to display the ferocity of your anger?
I was just walking back and forth, talking to myself.
Were you talking to yourself in a loud voice?
Yes.
And, Mr. Wright, what were you saying to yourself?
It's not fair. It's not fair.
Were you stomping your feet?
Nah. Just walking back and
So when the police told you to be quiet or whatever else, they said to impart that to you, what did you do?
I wasn't talking to him. I just kept talking to the person that owned the bar.
What were you saying to him?
I want my money back, and it's not fair.
What money?
The money that I spent in the club and the money that I paid to get in the club.
But, you know, you didn't behave in the club.
So kick both of us out. Why you kick me out alone?
Well, sometimes life isn't fair, sir. When you do the wrong thing, sometimes that's just the way the cookie crumbles. So somebody tasered you.
Yes.
Who was that?
The cop.
And you weren't aggressive with the policeman.
No.
And when he tasered you, you fell back.
Yes.
Do you have pictures of the dent on your car?
Yes, I do. And he's lying about not being aggressive with the cop because the police officer that actually tasered him is here, and he has video of the incident.
Oh, really?
As part of the incident. So.
Oh, I'd like to see that. Let me just take a look at these pictures. Now, Mr. Wright.
Yes.
You would agree that if you were being out of control and if you were being aggressive, that the police had the right to taser you?
No.
So you think you have the right to be out of control and aggressive, and there be no consequence to that?
I get arrested, but not to get tasered.
Well, if you were out of control, sir, why would the police want to risk their safety by trying to arrest you while you were being aggressive?
It wasn't that crazy and aggressive.
You weren't?
No.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how crazy were you?
Probably like a 5.
Well, I'm going to tell you, Mr. Wright, if you were like a 5, then I don't think the police officers have to risk their safety by trying to subdue you without help. What's the police officer's name?
Officer Morgan.
Would you bring Officer Morgan in? Who is this gentleman?
This is my fiancé, Ibrahim.
He wasn't there that day?
No, but...
Just okay. He wasn't there. Bird, would you swear the witness, please?
Officer Morgan, raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the truth in these matters?
Yes, sir.
Officer Morgan, did you respond to the premises where the plaintiff is employed on the 19th of November, 2005, sometime after midnight?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Approximately what time did you respond?
It was about 1:30.
Was that as a result of a call to 911?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you alone or with a partner?
I was by myself, ma'am.
When you responded, can you tell me what you observed?
Well, when I first heard the call go out, it wasn't originally dispatched to me, but I was in that area working traffic, so I decided to go ahead and go over there. When I first arrived, I observed Mr. Wright here and a couple other guys out front and some of the security guys out front.
What were they doing?
Well, Mr. Wright, he was cussing and using profanity, and there was another gentleman that was with him. He was using profanity, and I just calmly walked over to one of the bouncers there that I know and said, ask him what was going on. He said these guys had been in an altercation in the club, whatnot, and he had asked them to leave, and he couldn't get them to leave. So I said, okay, I'll get him to leave. So I called to Mr. Wright, and I said, hey, and he just ignored me, continued to be loud, use profanity, the F word. A second or two later, I called to him again, and I did this a couple times, and he just ignored me. He made eye contact with me a few times, but he just ignored me. So finally, in a loud voice, I called to him, hey. He turned and looked at me and said, don't holler at me, and started cussing me. And there was probably 10 people outside the club at this time, patrons coming out also, trying to leave. His friend was there. So I realized that it had reached a point where Mr. Wright wasn't going to leave on his own. And I told him that if he didn't leave, that I'd take him to jail. If you ain't taking me to jail, so on and so forth. At that time, I told Mr. Wright he was under arrest. Mr. Wright's friend, I think, realized the seriousness of it at this point and was trying to get Mr. Wright to leave. And he wouldn't leave. I ain't leaving, I'm not leaving, I want my money, I'll shoot this place up, so on and so forth. Things continued to spiral downhill pretty quick. I'm issued a taser by my department, so I pulled it from its holster and I turned it on. When I turn the taser on, it has a power button here, I turn it on, and from the front it emits a light, and there's also a red laser beam. Placed that laser beam on him, I told him he was under arrest and for him to get on the ground.
Well, what happened next?
I kept telling him several times, get on the ground, get on the ground. His friend got in front of him to block him. Of course, every other person there was scattering. But Mr. Wright continued to be aggressive. His friend wouldn't get off of him, so I kicked his friend in order to get him away. And then Mr. Wright said, don't you, kick my friend. And he took about 4 steps towards me. And when he did that, I discharged the taser. And a taser shoots 2 probes, and 1 probe was in his upper shoulder and 1 probe hit in his lower abdomen. It distributes about 50,000 volts. It's a low amperage of electricity, but it has high volts, and it incapacitates you.
So he fell into the car?
He did.
Okay. Was he arrested?
He was arrested.
For what?
Disorderly conduct and obstruction.
Was he given a sobriety test?
Not per se like you would do in a DUI case. But I can tell you this, Judge. I've worked DUIs for 5 years. I've seen countless number of people under the influence of alcohol. Mr. Wright was under the influence of alcohol that night. He had a strong odor coming from his breath. His eyes were bloodshot and watery. From his aggression, all those things are consistent when I deal with people under the influence of alcohol.
Okay. There's a tape there.
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Huff says that somehow this incident was taped. How was it taped?
From the in-car camera on my patrol vehicle.
Oh, great. Can I see it, please?
Judge, just for the court, it is a little bit explicit, but in the heat of the moment, things like that happen. So I do apologize for that.
Turn over. Get on your stomach. Turn over. I'll butt you again. Turn over. Put your hands out where I can see them. Yeah, I got one on the table. Thank you. Get it. Cuff him. Come with me. That's how you do it. You understand me?
Was this after or before he was tasered?
This is after, Judge. If you can see there in the video, I'm holding the taser in my hand, and you can see the wires that are connected from here to the probes that are in his body. He's still connected.
So you come at me. I told you you were under arrest, and to get on the ground, and you kept running your mouth.
Judge, you can kind of see the wires dangling there. That's the wires from the taser.
You charge at me. That's why you got shot. I don't care where you're from.
Where you from either?
I told you don't charge me.
Stop your car. You have to do that. I'm clean. I've got no record of nothing. I'm clean.
You do now. I told you to back away from me and not charge me. I told you you were under arrest.
I got a cop that's from officer. It's all good, man. We're going down. Come on, man. I ain't do nothing here. We shot me for no reason.
I told you you were under arrest to get on the ground and you want to charge me.
Okay, give me the card then, man. I don't want to hear no talking, man. You got to do what you did. I don't got no drop to me, no gun on me. Search me if you want to. I know you want to. You know what I'm saying? It's all good, man. Come on, man. That's just crazy, man. Carolina? From New York, man. Out of here, man.
All right, Mr. Wright, somebody has to be responsible for Miss Huff's car. The person who caused the damage to her car physically was you, because you fell into her car. Now, the question is, was Officer Morgan's actions, in my judgment, based upon what I've heard today, a reasoned response to what he saw when he got to the club? And when he got to the club, he saw you, who finally acknowledged that you were told to leave, you didn't leave, you walked up and down, talking to yourself and cursing. Your friends came outside. According to Officer Morgan, your friend tried to get you to leave. You still didn't leave. When you're given a direct command by a police officer who's involved in his lawful responsibility, you're supposed to follow it. But if you were out of control, he has a responsibility to protect himself. So in my judgment, the person who was responsible for the damage to her car was the person who was acting irresponsibly that night. And the person who was acting irresponsibly that night was you. Somebody brushed by you in a club, and because you'd had a little too much to drink, you overreacted, and you confronted them over nothing. And you probably wouldn't have done it if you hadn't had too much to drink, but you started a brawl inside the club. So you've got to pay for Miss Huff's car. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,400. Thank you. Yes, sir.
You may step out. The matter of Stevens versus Van Doggen. Step forward.
Nebraska Stevens Jr. and his father, Nebraska Sr., are suing Nebraska's former roommate, Brian Van Doggen, for unpaid rent. Brian claims the two men violated his civil rights.
Mr. Stevens Sr., you are here primarily because your name is on the lease to this apartment.
Right.
But you don't live in the apartment. Your son lives in the apartment.
Right.
Why don't you have a seat, sir? Thank you. Mr. Stevens, the defendant was your roommate. You lived together for a brief period of time. You claim he moved out owing you a month's rent.
Yes.
And Mr. Van Doggen, while he acknowledges that he did not pay rent for the month of November, and in fact lived in the apartment for the majority of the month of November of 2005, claims that he does not owe you this rent because you violated his civil rights. That's your defense.
Right.
And Bird and I are all ears, Mr. Van Doggen.
Nebraska Stevens Jr. claims former roommate Brian Van Doggen owes for rent. Brian, a future law student, is claiming Nebraska and his father violated his civil rights.
Now, tell me about those civil rights of yours that were violated, Mr. Van Doggen.
Well, during the 4 months I lived there, I agreed that on the 15th that I would pay rent. And so, you know, a couple times I was late, but, you know, I couldn't get a hold of it.
Stop banging on the table. It's irritating to me. Just a second. You agree that you would pay rent on the 15th of the month.
Right.
Any particular reason for that, sir?
I get paid once a month on the 15th.
And you don't budget well, because rent is usually due on the 1st of the month.
Right. I made the agreement with his father that I would pay on the 15th, and he agreed.
Is that right? 15th he was supposed to pay rent?
Yes.
Good. So now we come to November 15th. He didn't pay your rent.
Right. So what happened was, you know, on Saturday in the morning.
Stop banging on that table.
Sorry. About 8 o'clock in the morning, his father would arrive and knock on my door and walk in my room. I was sleeping and, you know, stand and say, "Where's my rent money?"
You mean after the 15th?
Right.
So he knocked at your door and walked in and said, "Where is the rent?"
Right.
Keep going.
So that's it. I didn't think that's fair at all. You know, I'm there trying to sleep. You know, the only time I get to sleep in is on Saturday because I go to school Monday through Friday. And
You go to school for what?
I'm a law student.
At a law school?
No, community college. I'm just getting my AA.
Well, you got a long way to go, Mr. Van Doggen. Long way to go. How many credits do you have towards your bachelor's degree?
Right now, I've got, well, 4 because I only went through 1 semester.
Well, let's figure it this way. I think you usually need 128 credits to graduate from college. So you only need 124 more credits to graduate. And then you need 3 years of law school.
Right.
So I would strongly urge you not using a tape of your performance here today as an application for law school. Is what you're trying to tell me, Mr. Van Doggen, that because the senior Mr. Stevens knocked at your door and came in at 8 o'clock in the morning and woke you up, that your civil rights were violated and therefore you don't have to pay rent?
Right. Well, there's also an emotional side, too.
Well, I want you to tell me about the emotional side. Bert and I are absolutely breathless in anticipation, waiting to hear the emotional side.
Well, Zach over here, you know, likes to party a lot. He would sleep for 15 hours a day, wake up about 10 o'clock at night, and then party the rest of the night. Do you know what I mean? He had the level, the radio was blasting, things like that. And I'm trying to study.
Yeah, I know those 4 credits will get you.
Yeah. Well, I didn't get those credits because I couldn't sleep and stuff during the night because he was out partying and stuff. I couldn't concentrate, I couldn't study, and then I couldn't sleep because I was up to 3 o'clock in the morning trying to tell him to turn the TV down.
Sounds like a civil rights violation if I ever heard one.
We shall overcome.
We shall overcome is right.
50 on the count in the matter of Tyler versus Cherry. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated.
Ms. Tyler, you have 2 children. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor, that's correct.
And the defendant provided for daycare for your 2 children for some time. It is your claim that she terminated without giving you proper notice. And you want a whole host of damages from her. And Ms. Cherry says that you're a real nut. And she had every right to terminate the services early.
Yes, Your Honor.
When did she start providing care for your children?
She provided services for my son, who's 2, on August the 24th, 2005. And in November, she started providing services for my younger son, who at the time was 6 months old.
And when did the services terminate?
I believe December the 14th, 2005.
And it is conceded that there is a 2-week notice requirement. Is that right?
That's right, Your Honor.
When did you give that 2-week notice?
December the 23rd, 2005.
And then subsequently you told her not to bring the children back at all.
1 week.
So that's what she's really talking about, that you terminated the services without giving her the proper 2 weeks notice. Am I correct?
In addition, as far as we didn't have our security deposit returned to us, and some 2 days of services that she had already been paid for that she did not keep.
But you also want additional money because you say that you had to find other daycare and you had a problem with your job, so you want some punitive damages.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, let's deal with the easy things first. Security deposit. How much was the security deposit?
She only paid for the infant $100, was supposed to have been $200.
Okay, and for the older child?
$150.
And then she prepaid a week.
That's correct.
The children were only there for 2 days.
They were there for 3 days.
3 days. So far, $390 are the monies that she has expended that she will get back. Now we're going to talk about the punitive damages for what you claim are damages that she should be responsible for breaching the contract and terminating your children early. And she says that she had good cause to do that, so that the ball is going to be in her court to explain to me what her good cause was to terminate early. Go ahead.
She was, how can I put this? She wasn't pleased with what I was doing, evidently. So I said, Yetunde, why don't you find another daycare?
There was no episode?
Other than the fact that she called Child Protective Service on me.
When did she call Child Protective Services on you?
I would have to say maybe December the 22nd.
So immediately before. Did you call Child Protective Services?
Yes.
Or?
Yes, Your Honor, but the dates are inaccurate because the incident took place on December the 14th.
Well, why don't you tell me what happened that precipitated all this trouble?
Sure, Your Honor. On December the 5th, when I went to go pick up my children, it had been snowing. There was approximately maybe 3 to 4 inches of snow. I had on shoes where my feet were out in the back. So rather than walk around back and possibly fall with my children, one who's in an infant carrier, which I would have to hold, and the other is a 2-year-old, which I would have to hold going up 7 or 8 cement steps. To prevent that from happening, I knocked on the front door. Her policy is the daycare entrance and exit is around back. So regardless of the situation, you have to walk around back. I did
listen, you're supposed to walk in the back through the daycare. You didn't walk through the back because you were wearing the wrong shoes. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. So you went in the front door, and what happened?
Yeah, I went in the front door. Her husband opened the door and said the daycare's around back, and I explained to him about the shoes, and I just kept on going downstairs to the daycare to pick my children up, and I talked to her about safety.
Just a second. So the husband said to you, you have to go around back.
Right.
You said, I'm not going around back because I'm not wearing the right shoes.
Right.
And you just walked past him and walked downstairs.
That's correct.
All right, good. So you got downstairs, and what happened?
Well, picked up my children without incident, no problem, and then took them to the car, and I believe she may have walked out. Maybe she had another child. I can't really remember, but I do remember having a conversation before I pulled off, and I simply...
What kind of conversation?
It was regarding safety issues, because I felt that she should have shoveled her walkway, and I told her it was unsafe to do that, and then she asked me, well, that's what I have insurance for, or you can wear boots. I thought that was inappropriate. And after that, and she did suggest maybe if I wasn't happy that I could find another daycare provider. And she also told me that none of her other parents had a problem with it.
Fine. So she told you, listen to me, she told you at that time, if you're not satisfied with the service and you feel as if it's dangerous, go find someplace else.
Right.
Okay. What happened next?
I asked her who was her licensing specialist, and she threatened me like, well, if you contact my licensing specialist, then you can expect a 2 weeks notice.
Okay, that sounds fair.
Right, so...
Well, just a minute. Does that sound unfair to you?
Well, it felt like a threat.
What, that you were going to call the license provider?
No, she was saying...
I'm speaking.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That she hadn't she hadn't shoveled her walk, you were going to call her licensed provider. You didn't think that was a threat. But her statement to you that if you do that, you're going to get a 2-week notice, you felt that was a threat. I just want to make sure that we understand each other.
That's
all right, let's go further. What happened next?
Okay, so we had our discussion. We left on good terms. Good night.
You didn't leave on good terms.
Okay.
You left on bad terms.
Okay.
If you threatened to call the people who could close up my business because you were wearing slingback shoes in the snow, I would not be a happy person with you. Your kids went to the daycare from the 5th to the 14th.
That's correct. We paid, no problem.
Go ahead.
Okay, December 14th, around 5:30, 5:45, I go around back and pick up my children. I noticed after a few minutes that my older son has a stinky diaper on him. I simply asked Miss Cherry if she can change him. She goes into this mental breakdown state on me, snapping out in front of another parent.
What did she say to you?
I had given Yetunde, her son, he was clean, he had his coat on. Same for the infant. I had just finished feeding the infant a burpee, so on the way home, the infant wouldn't be irritable, wouldn't be hungry.
Just tell me what happened.
And so what actually happened was, it was 6:05, 6:06 at the time. I'm trying to close my daycare, trying to get out to take my 2 children to karate class. She had lots of time, ample time to take her children out of the daycare and going home. She chose to linger and hang around and hang around.
How long did she linger?
She was there at 5:45. She didn't decide to leave. I had to start actually cleaning up.
Just a second. What time did you arrive there?
It was close to about 6 o'clock. I'm sorry, between about 5:45, 5:50, because I commute.
Fine.
Okay.
And what time were you actually ready to walk out the door?
Should have been.
Noticed this diaper problem.
Maybe around 6 o'clock. It wasn't even 6 o'clock yet, because she looked at the clock and said.
So 15 minutes later.
Right.
What time are you supposed to pick him up?
She closes at 6 o'clock. Matter of fact, she was waiting on another parent to get there, so she couldn't close until the other parent got there. Matter of fact, the other parent came in and witnessed the whole incident. The other parent was there before 6 p.m.
So at 6 o'clock, as you're ready to walk out the door, you notice that your child has a soiled diaper.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Why didn't you change him?
Because she's a daycare provider.
You're his mother.
Yeah, and I pay her $1,400 a month. I thought that's the least she could do.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I didn't realize that was going to send her into a tailspin. So I contacted 911. She's like, go ahead, contact 911.
I would have told you not to bring him back that day. I wouldn't have waited 24 hours.
And later today,
what time did the golf cart end up in the lake, sir?
3 o'clock or so.
provider Kathy Cherry terminated their contract without notice. Yetunde says Kathy won't return the unused portion of her fee.
So you handed her back the child and said, change him.
No, I didn't say that.
In effect, you handed her back the child and said, change him.
I asked her, did she mind changing his diaper, and I didn't realize that was...
There isn't a question in my mind that you didn't say that to her, madam.
Well, I have a witness, unfortunately, but she's not here.
You know what my witness is? My witness is all the years that I've lived on this earth. And anybody who would say to somebody who's closing up their business, who's been standing around for 15 minutes and notices that their child now has a dirty diaper, you take the child over in a corner, and you take out a diaper, and you change him. You don't say... You change him, he's still on the clock. Keep going. So far, I'm beginning to agree with this defense. Go ahead.
Okay, so I asked her to change my son, and she does. She changes him, but then on her way over to the table, she becomes all emotional, screaming, hollering, and yelling, and that was totally inappropriate. I didn't understand what this whole escapade was about over a diaper. I didn't realize that was going to send her into a tailspin. So I contact 911. She's like, go ahead, contact 911. I call 911 because her behavior is becoming volatile and hostile, and she's doing this in front of younger children.
So you called 911 on your cell phone?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
And after you called 911, you continued to take your children back to this daycare?
No, that was the final day. They never came back after that day.
After you called 911, she terminated your children early, and that's your complaint?
No, she didn't terminate until the next day.
The next day she terminated them?
She called my house
which was
at
a week early.
6:27, right.
And said, don't bring them back.
In essence, yes. She
I would have told you not to bring them back that day. I wouldn't have waited 24 hours. I mean, I don't understand where your head is at. You pick up a phone and you call 911. You're alleging that the person who's taking care of your 2 infant children is acting in an irresponsible, irrational way. And what you're telling me is that if she hadn't terminated your children, you would have taken them back to school the next day? Is that what you're telling me?
I'm not telling you that.
Well, I'm asking you. Let's get the lawsuit clear so that you understand the 4 corners of this lawsuit right now. Do you understand?
Yes.
You have a disagreement with the daycare provider. As a result of that, and by the way, I believe that was as a result of your bad behavior. In any event, you call the police, which is an emergency.
Right.
And then you're telling me that despite that, you would have taken your children back to her daycare the next day to complete the week.
I'm not telling you that at all.
Then you cannot sue her, madam, for early termination.
But she had a 2 weeks notice, and it was termination she has right here that it was to be effected on December the 23rd.
Well, I've got to tell you something. I would have terminated you that day. I find that your conduct was at least not particularly motherly, and at worst, brave. First of all, if there's 2 or 3 inches of snow outside, you're not supposed to be walking around with slingback shoes. And if you're supposed to go in one entrance to a house and the owner of the house says, you know, you're supposed to go around the back and you push past them, I would have called the police and charged you with trespass, because that's not what you're supposed to do. And when you pick up your child and you linger in daycare, and between the time you get there and the time you're supposed to leave, he soils his diaper, you fix it. The fact that you paid her $1,400 a month to take care of your children doesn't preclude you from being a reasonable person. So you're going to get your $390 because that's your security deposit, and that's for the 2 days that you paid that you didn't get. As far as punitive damages are concerned, it's a good thing she didn't file a counterclaim.
And for stealing money from 2 bank accounts.
Your Honor, this is case number 82 on the calendar in the matter of Hoffman versus Coons. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat.
Ms. Hoffman, is this your daughter?
Yes, ma'am.
Is she still seeing Mr. Coons?
Yes, Your Honor.
So I assume she's not happy being here today.
You're correct.
It is your claim, Ms. Hoffman, that Mr. Coons forged some checks of yours.
Correct.
And also took money out of your daughter's account.
Correct.
In addition to that, he had an accident while driving your car. Mr. Coons says, well, he acknowledges that he did forge some checks of yours, but he says that he paid you back that money in restitution by working for you. And he didn't steal as much as you claim he stole, and aside from that, he says your daughter knew all about it. And as far as taking money out of her account, she was aware of that. And as far as the car incident was concerned, your daughter knew he didn't have a valid driver's license. He had a suspended driver's license, so she gave him permission to drive the car, and therefore he's not responsible. Correct?
Correct.
Tell me about the car incident, sir.
I went down to the store. I was driving through the parking lot, and a lady backed out. And she actually bumped into me, and I got out, made sure everything was okay. She said it doesn't look like any damage is done here. And I was all, here's my number. We exchanged numbers. And I said, if there's any further problems, call me. And that was it.
Why should she call you if she backed into you?
I just told her to call me because if it was, we wanted to exchange insurance information later on.
I don't understand why she should call you. She backed into you.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I said. I told her, I was like, you know, you backed out. I honked the horn, basically. Everything's all right. There was no damage done.
Was there any damage done to the car?
Yes, there was damage. I have proof that there was damage. And the thing was, he didn't even call and tell me that he backed in. He just, what happened was...
Can I see the pictures, please?
Yes. The other company called me, and that's how I found out.
The other company called you because she was filing a claim?
She filed a claim, yes. Wait.
She filed a claim? How could she file a claim? She, according to him, backed into him.
She said that he backed into her. So I
Where was the damage to your car?
Underneath the bumper.
Mr. Coons, when did you notify Ms. Hoffman that there had been this little accident?
I didn't notify her.
Okay. Now let's get back to your defense to this action. Your defense to this action is that you had a suspended driver's license, but your girlfriend knew about it when she gave you the car to go to the store.
Yeah. I was just going to run to the store, get some things at the store, and come right back. Your house is like half a mile from the store.
Why was your driver's license suspended?
For traffic tickets that I failed to appear on.
What kind of tickets?
Like 2 speeding tickets.
And?
And a red light violation.
So you're not a good driver?
I'm a good driver.
No, you're not. They don't take away the license of good drivers.
Yeah.
How many accidents?
Driving a car on a suspended license is...
illegal.
That's not something that could wand and do away with. That's only something that you have control over, Mr. Coons.
I didn't think it was a big deal, though, just to run down to the store.
It is a big deal, you idiot. When they say you can't drive, they don't say you can't drive except to go down to the store.
True.
Now, just for my own curiosity, sir, what is it that you had to get that was so important at the store? Insulin?
No.
What?
Just some stuff for dinner.
Your Honor.
Just don't say, does it look like you're losing? Oh, does it look like you're losing so far? What?
I was going to...
Can I tell you something? Christina.
Yes.
He's still your boyfriend?
Yes.
He's an idiot. Maybe you're an idiot. I don't know if you're an idiot or not, but he's an idiot. And if you're going to hitch your wagon to his star, You're going to have a miserable life.
No, Your Honor.
What? Listen to me, Christina. Your mother's been around for a while?
Yes.
Right? You've been married?
Yes, ma'am.
Divorced?
Yes.
How many times?
Once.
Once. Been there, done that a couple of times. Been in the family court years. I got a nose. You hitch your wagon to this star, you're going to have a miserable life. Just think about it. 10 years from now, you're going to say, you know, I appeared before Judge Judy in this silly little case that was on television, and she, put your hand down, and she told me if I hitched my wagon to his star, I was going to have a miserable life. She was right. Just listen to me. I know about you. You may be a loser, too. Then maybe you belong together. Maybe two halves make a whole. I don't know. But if you certainly don't look it. How much is it going to cost to fix the bumper?
$971.
Good, $971. Now, Mr. Coons, explain to me why you took checks from Miss Hoffman and forged her name and cashed them.
I started hanging out with the wrong crowd, doing some stupid stuff, and I needed a bunch of cash.
Hanging around with a bad crowd doesn't mean you need cash. If you're hanging around with a bad crowd and you buy drugs and owe somebody for money for the drugs, and you need cash for that, otherwise somebody's going to break your knees, that's a reason. So you want to explain to me what you needed this money for?
Basically, I got into drugs, and I needed cash to support it. And then after that...
Were you supporting Christina's drug habit, too?
No, I'd never get into that.
Did Christina know you were doing drugs?
Nope.
So she's not very intuitive, right?
Nope.
You managed to conceal that from her,
Yep.
right? How did I know that, Mr. Coons? It's not anywhere in these papers, sir. Did you think that maybe I have a crystal ball?
Yep.
Experience. That's what I'm trying to tell Christina. How much money did he steal from you?
$1,320 out of my account.
I don't care what he took out of Christina's account. If Miss Stupid wants to stay with him, she'll deal with that.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
What kind of drug?
Daniel Coons stole money from her and her daughter's bank accounts. Donna says Daniel took the money to support his OxyContin habit.
When did you find out that he took money out of your account?
Maybe a couple weeks or a month later.
Come. Stand up next to your mother, Christina. Here we go. How much did he take out of your account?
I think it was $650.
And you didn't find out that he took the money out of your account until after he took it out?
No, it bounced in my account.
So you didn't know he had done it?
No.
When you confronted him about it, what did he say, Christina?
He told me about it.
Well, what did he tell you?
That he bounced checks in my account.
No, what did he tell you? Come on. You just say to him, where'd you get the money from? Where did you get the checks from? What did you use the money for? Those were the intelligent questions, Christina. And what did he tell you?
He told me what he used it for and why he needed
what?
it. Drugs.
What kind of drugs?
OxyContin.
And after you found out that the checks bounced, did he take any other money out of your account?
No, Your Honor.
Is that right, sir?
Yep.
I just changed my mind. Because, Mr. Coons, in your answer, you say that Christina here knew all about it, that she was aware of it. She says she wasn't. You know that?
She put the checks in her account, so that would... she knew about the checks going in her account, but not them bouncing.
Not that there were no funds.
Yeah, exactly.
But you knew.
Yep, I knew.
But you didn't tell her.
Yep.
Well, then you misled me, sir. You misled me in your answer. Your answer suggested that she was a co-conspirator. All right. So let's understand, Christina, who he is. He stole from your mother.
Mm-hmm.
He stole from you. He's a 19-year-old drug addict. He says you don't use drugs. Is that true?
Yes, it is.
Why in the world would an attractive girl like you want to hook up with him?
Because I love him.
The uniformed groans out here, Christina. The uniformed groans out here, Christina.
Mm. Your Honor, he's cleaned up also.
What are you doing now, Mr. Coons?
My uncle owns a trucking company. I'm trying to get my Class A license to drive for him.
That doesn't tell me what you're doing now.
Moving. He owns a moving company.
That doesn't tell me what you're doing now.
I'm cleaning my act up. Making money.
So you want to be a mover?
Yeah, a driver.
What are you doing, Christina?
I work at Express and I'm a cosmetologist.
Is that what you want to do?
Hair? Yes, I do.
You living home?
Yes, I do.
Remember to take those pills every morning. Every morning. Maybe you'll wake up in time. Mr. Coons, did you go into a residential drug treatment program?
Yep.
For how
Yes.
long?
10 days.
That's a crash course, sir. That's a crash course. Did the program recommend that you go into residential treatment for a period of 18 months or whatever and stick with it?
Yeah, that's what they recommended, but...
And you decided that you didn't need that. Is that right?
That's right.
And you decided that you didn't need that despite the fact that you had stolen from Miss Hoffman, you stole from your girlfriend, you have half a dozen unresolved driving infractions, you had an accident with a car. All of those things don't suggest to you that maybe the professionals that told you a 10-day crash course doesn't make it. When you are so addicted to drugs, instead of fooling around, you should go into a residential drug treatment program. But you knew better than the professionals, is that right?
Yeah.
Good girl, Christina. Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $2,941. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
The bank called me.
Mrs. Clark, step forward, please.
Meat cutter Michael McLean is suing the mother of his son, nurse Lachelle Clark, for the return of child support. Michael says money was taken from his paycheck while their son was living with him.
Mr. McLean, you and the defendant have a son together.
Yes, I do, ma'am.
And it is your claim that your son was living with you for a period of time at his mother's request.
Yes, ma'am.
And during that time, they were taking child support out of your check.
Yes.
And Miss Clark knew that the child was living with you, and she was the only one that could stop this child support
Yes, ma'am.
payment. She did not, and you want her to pay you back the money that you sent, or that
Yes,
was
ma'am.
taken out of your check, for your son while he was living with you.
Yes, I wanted her to stop it immediately.
And Miss Clark says, well, it was only temporary, and she was providing some things for him also.
Yes.
Right? Okay. How old is this child?
He's 11.
And why did he go and live with his father, Miss Clark?
He went to live with his father because at the present time, my landlord went up on my rent $300 because I had lost.
You were having a problem with housing.
Excuse me?
You were having a problem with housing?
Yes.
All right, that's the bottom line.
Michael McLean says the mother of his son, Lachelle Clark, accepted child support payments after their son started living with him.
So when did you call Mr. McLean and ask if he could take your son?
Around the 1st of January when I first started having my housing problem.
And when did he actually go to live with his father?
The 28th of January.
Is he still there?
Yes.
And how much is the child support order, Mr. McLean?
I want to say $272
a month.
What do you do for a living, Mr. McLean?
I'm a meat cutter, meat manager.
How many children do you have?
I got 3.
Do any of them live with you? You have to think
no.
about that? None of them live with you?
No.
Do you pay child support for any other children?
Yes, I do.
And what do you do for a living, Miss Clark?
I'm a nurse.
How many children do you have?
2.
Well, I know one is living with Mr. McLean. Where is the other child?
The other one is with his father also.
How much child support do you pay for your other child?
None.
Why not?
What do you mean? Because me and him have an understanding. This thing right here, I can't have
listen to me. Listen to me very carefully, Miss Clark.
I do for my other son, as well as I do for Michael while he's staying with his father here.
Well, listen to me. Don't talk to me with attitude. There's only one attitude here, and that's mine.
I will.
Listen to me very carefully, madam. There's only one attitude here. And Officer Byrd will tell you that that attitude is mine. So let me give you a primer course in parenting. When two people have a child, it is the responsibility of both parents so that if while your son is living with his father and you buy him things, clothes,
and anything else he needs.
Just a second. Clothes, doctor's visits, extra school activities, sneakers, right? That's what you're supposed to do.
Okay.
You're also supposed to be responsible for your child's portion of his rent, gas, electric, food, telephone. That's what his father is taking care of. He's not supposed to be sending you money so that you can spend his money on clothes for your child. That's money that you're supposed to be paying out of the money you make from being a nurse. So when your son went to live with his father, the child support should have terminated. The truth of the matter is, while your son is living with his father, you should be paying his father child support. And if you're not paying child support to the father of your other child, when your other child's living there, you're doing the wrong thing too. So let's figure this out. There are 4.3 weeks in a month times 4. Oh, got to turn it on first. 4.3 times 4. No, that's wrong.
Can I have it?
Yeah, you figured
His
it
child
out.
support was stopped in April.
What?
His support was stopped in April. We went to
So
court
just
about
a
this
second.
matter.
It was stopped in April.
8, 408.
April 8th. So we just need 2 months. So it's 272 times 2. $544.
That's right.
Where do you get $1,136 from?
I must have underestimated the cost of it, but I also wanted to where I had to go file for court.
I'm sure she had to go. I'm sure she had to go.
No,
you
Don't speak to each other. You want to speak to each other? You do that outside. Here, you only speak to me. Okay. So let's say you had him for an additional 3 weeks. It's approximately $150. That would be $694 that you paid for support while he was living with you.
Yes.
Is she paying child support now? Did she pay you any child support in April or May?
No, she haven't.
Got away with murder. What you should have done is when you went in to have the child support stopped, you should have sued her for child support. Put your hand down. As long as the child is living with you, you have the right to sue for child support against the non-custodial parent. Stop, tap your fingers. You may not like the message, but don't kill the messenger. That's the law. Just like when your child is living with you, you sue the non-custodial parent. Just because he's the father doesn't mean you get a free ride. Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $694. That's all.
Xin chào mọi người. Ở video trước, mình đã hướng dẫn cho mọi người hoàn thành xong được hàng móc số 14 của phần mặt nạ như thế này. Và video lần này, mình sẽ hướng dẫn mọi người móc hàng móc số 15 và hàng 16. Và để lên hàng số 15, mọi người lên cho mình một chân bính. Quay lại và móc cho mình một mũi giảm vào chân mũi đầu tiên. Rồi, sau đó mọi người sẽ móc cho mình 21 mũi X và 21 chân mũi tiếp theo. Và hai chân mũi cuối cùng mọi người sẽ móc cho mình 2 mũi giảm. Rồi, mình đã hoàn thành hàng móc số là số 15. Và bây giờ mình sẽ hướng dẫn mọi người móc hàng số 16. Mọi người sẽ lên cho mình một bính, móc cho mình một mũi giảm, móc cho mình 19 chân mũi đơn và 19 chân mũi tiếp theo. Và hai chân mũi còn lại mọi người sẽ móc cho mình một mũi giảm. Rồi mọi người sẽ lên cho mình 15 biến. Và mọi người trượt cho mình vào chân mũi đầu tiên của hàng. Rồi, vậy là mình đã hoàn thành xong phần mặt nạ của con Batman. Bây giờ mình sẽ lồng vào. Rồi. Rồi, vậy là mình đã hướng dẫn cho mọi người hoàn thành xong phần mặt nạ con Batman như thế này.